Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here for the very first session of Seasons of Death Spring, our Night's Black Agent solo ops 2 to 3 shot with a brand new agent. This is our third agent. We've seen Autumn, we've seen Summer, and now we have Spring. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you, everyone who is here live, and all of those of you who are watching us live on, not live, on VOD over on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Being here is, we are nothing without you. Thank you for watching and for supporting. If you would like to support us, there are various ways to do that, and the first and best way is just by being here. Or if you're on YouTube, leaving a comment, like, and subscribe. You can also tell your friends that we're here. You can retweet or reskeet our tweets in the Bluesky skeets, all of that business. Let people know. There are other things you can do if you would like to support us. You can give tips and bits, and if you do, I will read out those tips and bits messages at the end. You can also join our Patreon, which is over at Academic Foxhole. All proceeds from the Patreon and also tips and bits go to pay for the cast and any other commissioned work. Also, we have a special sponsor tier on the Patreon. It is $200, which will pay for 4 players for 1 episode. And those people who are in the sponsorship tier, it's limited to 4, will be able to have a special radio ad that plays once a month in our break. So thank you, everyone who is doing all that goodness. Also, it's super hot in here, so forgive me if I'm just cooling off a little bit. So I hope you are all ready for this. This is a brand new agent with a brand new story. This should be about 2 or 3 sessions. We'll see how it goes. And am I leading up to something large and huge later? I don't know. Maybe. Really, who's to say? Probably. Well, I'm not gonna. One can't say. All right. Again, forgive my dramatic lighting. I've lost one of my lights, and it'll take a little bit of time before I can return them. So we're just going to be a little bit dramatic, as it were. So, welcome in. I would like to introduce my player. These are special. This is a special system that's 1 player, 1 GM, and this system is made for by Pelgrane Press. The first one they did, this is using their Gumshoe system, but a very special version of it, which is called their Gumshoe 1-to-1 system, which they have created. They designed it specifically for 1 player and 1 GM, and they took into account all sorts of issues and things to ponder, like how do you deal, and they've got great GM advice. How do you deal with the fact that if you have only 1 player, they have no one else to bounce ideas off of? What can you do to help make this sort of be manageable? And it's a great system. They do great versions. We've done Cthulhu Confidential, which we're currently doing on Sundays, and this is Night's Black Agent Solo Agent, which Solo Ops, which is basically there is a full party version of this. And this is a game that is basically described as Jason Bourne meets Dracula, right? So it's secret agents who learn about a grand vampire conspiracy and are trying to take them down without being taken down themselves. And we have a new agent. So far, our first agent was Grimjack or Warp Reactor. Our second agent was Ari Ventures. And when I pick the agents, I want to pick somebody amazing, somebody very cool, somebody who's impressed me with their RP, with their abilities as a player, as a gamer, but also as a cool person that I like and that makes me think, oh, what a nice person. I like playing with them. And so this person that we have, I've had the pleasure of playing with over on, some places. And I would love to introduce, if I could, Spring. Could you say who you are and who you're playing?
Hi everyone, I am PB from @PBPlaysInside. You might have seen me in chat here and there over here on Troopers channel. Today, I am playing Agent Alyssa Lynn Hall, an MI6 agent based out of London. However, she is usually not spending much time there because her specialty is undercover work. For long periods of time, she is out and about, gathering information, gathering intel for MI6. And her code name is Loki, and I'm sure you can guess why.
Because she's played by Tom Hiddleston.
Absolutely, that's why.
Nice. That's what I figured. So, I always like to do a little bit of explaining of the system while we go along, especially for those who've not seen it before. I like to keep these things up front. But I do have a few questions that I'd like to ask as we begin. Just a little getting to know each other and to know what's happening. So in this system, there is a character sheet. There is not an official one on Roll20, but there is one that I have made. And that character sheet, I still got a little bit of work to do on it. It currently holds data, but it doesn't have any of the fun functionality with rolling dice and whatnot. But it does keep track of things, and that's really the most important. I've not yet put in it. Oh, good. Edge Mastery is great. So, but what the game does do is it works off of cards. So there are cards and there are push tokens, and these things are sort of important to keep track. Now, I will say that each character has a starting problem. And this starting problem says something about the character. Now, our player has the option of 3 different starting problems. If you would, might you flip those starting problems over, read each one out loud, and then tell me which one you would like to be your starting problem.
All right, flipping the first problem. Voice message. A few days ago, you got a brief and confused message from Harry Coleman. He's MI6. You worked with him when you were in the service. Moscow desk. He sounded terrified, drunk. He said that he needed to talk to you, something about your mother, but he didn't leave any way to contact him. Discard this for a free interpersonal push when dealing with Harry. While you hold this card, you've got a -1 penalty to any cool tests. Okay. Our next card is Building Bridges. You need allies and reliable sources. That means rebuilding your connection to MI6. You need to end this operation in MI6's good graces, and you need to know who you can or cannot trust in MI6. Spicy. And our very last problem is Edom?
Edom.
In your search, Edom. In your searches of MI6's records to locate evidence of the mysterious blonde man, you came across a redacted file with a reference of some sort of old secret MI6 project called Edom. You don't know what it means, but you know it means something very important, and you are concerned that your file access was traced. Oh, that's spicy. Okay. And you want me to choose one of these?
Yes. I will note that all of these things are true, only one of which will be a problem, if you know what I mean.
Ah, yeah. I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like if you pick one, the other one isn't necessarily true. It's just that it's not a problem at the moment.
At the moment. Okay.
You're not taking it on as your problem.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Then at the moment, we will be starting with building bridges because we're feeling a little scorned at the moment. Let's see. I got... Oh, both of these are so good to start with, though. In the searches at MI6 to locate evidence of the series line, you came across a redacted file of some sort. Project Edom. You know what? I think it would be more fun to find out about that later. So I would like to start with voice message.
Okay. If you would just delete those other starting problems since they're not relevant at the moment. You know, at the moment. Doesn't mean they
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
come back again later, but for now, that is your current starting problem. So we have, I have some just general questions to start with. Um, oh, I should also note you have 3 pushes, and those are the little target counters over there on the map,
Ah,
right? They're just hanging out, and you should be able to move them around. Those represent, so in this game, there are 2 types of skills. There are general skills and there are investigative skills. And the way this game works, like all Gumshoe system games, is that you never roll for your investigative skills. You always automatically succeed as long as you use the skill and the skill is appropriate for the space, right?
yeah.
So if you use notice because you want to notice things and there are things to notice, you will notice them. That's it. You will never not notice the things as long as you take an option to notice.
Mm,
The only thing that might be a little tricky is some of your interpersonal investigative skills like intimidation or reassurance. Because if you pick the wrong one, the wrong approach, that might not work out well. If you know what I mean? Like
yes.
if you're trying to, let's say you try to, there's a person who's very, very fragile emotionally. Um, and you decide to go with interrogation, they might just freak out and fall into a puddle of tears, and you get no good information from them because that was not the right approach for them. Maybe they needed reassurance, right? Um,
Makes
so
sense.
yeah, so you can sometimes pick the wrong approach, but generally speaking, you're never going to fail on on a investigative check
Mhm.
because that's just not how this game works. Now, just because you don't fail on those checks doesn't mean there isn't more there. For example, let's say you meet somebody and that person is, I don't know, like the boyfriend of a very dangerous and psychotic mob boss, and you intimidate that person into giving you info. Well,
Mhm.
you will get the info. Absolutely no problem. Ta-da. However, that person is going to go and tell their boyfriend, the big psychotic mob boss, that you intimidated them. And then you're going to get in big trouble because obviously they're going to do that, right? Um,
Yeah.
a push, however, is used to get things based off of those investigative skills that are not information. Like you could use a push to convince him not to tell his boyfriend, the evil mob boss, psychotic mob boss, that you talked to him, right? Or maybe you use your lock picking to break into a room, but you can use a push to make sure that when you're going to get in. If you're going to break in, that's a true statement because it's an investigative skill. But you can use the push to make sure that nobody realizes you broke in, right? So just like you can break in, but that doesn't mean people won't realize that you broke in. You
Mm,
know?
mhm. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Also, pushes will help you get. Sometimes you can get things, right? So you have a network skill which allows you to get contacts, which we'll talk about in a second. Um,
Mhm.
get access to contacts. So the network skill. So you have 16 of the investigative skills, but you don't have all of them. But you can always try to get a contact who has one of the skills that you don't have. And your contacts are in Cthulhu Confidential, where the people have lives and people they care about and are not on the run and spies. They have contacts that they are really important to them. They hang out with all the time. Because they live in the same city. You're more of a person who has a number of people in your network that you can call on at any time, and maybe they're not important to you because maybe you're just using them. Who knows, right? But any skill that you do not have, you can always try a network test to see if you can find somebody you know, if you know somebody with that skill in this area because you've been around. Now, you find them and then you can talk to them. That's great. Now, what if you want, because you can always get information from them, but what if you want non information things from them? For example, what if you want them to accompany you on a mission? Or what if you want them to get you equipment or get you something that is not just information? That would be a push. So, pushes will let you get things from people, avoid consequences, um, Sometimes if you want to talk to somebody, they're too freaked out to talk to you, so you might have to give a push to get them into a state where you can use your skills on them. Pushes are
Mm.
very useful. Sometimes they're luck, right? So they're very useful things, and you have 3 of them to start. And you can get more, maybe,
Oh.
possibly. Um, it's possible. It's possible. But that links into the other thing, which are the general skills. General skills you have to roll for. And you have
Mhm.
all of the general skills at 2 dice. And when you roll those 2 dice, but you roll them 1 die at a time, and that's really important. Uh, so, and then once you use a skill, you have to take one of the dice off of it, and it goes down to 1 lower skill. So you had 2 dice. If you use it, then it goes down to 1 dice. If you use it again, it goes down to 0 dice. And they refresh when you take time. You know, so
Mhm.
that's a lovely thing that you do. You just take some time. It's nice. I think it's lovely. Your opponents also think it's lovely because when you take time, that's when they do stuff. But don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. Mhm, 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 mhm.
Okay.
Also, you have 2 dice. You can do something we call a stunt. A
Mhm.
stunt costs, so you could take a different skill, use it to stunt to get yourself an extra die in the skill that you're using, but it takes up 2 dice. So, for example, let's say you are
Mm.
wanting to, let's see. Let's say you are wanting to do, I don't know, shooting, right? You're wanting to shoot somebody. And you've got the shooting skill,
Mhm.
2 dice, but you think this is really dangerous and important, and you would like an extra die. You could stunt with maybe um athletics. And I would say, okay, well, how are you using athletics to get better at shooting? And then you're like, well, I'm going to slide down a banister and I'm going to, like, you describe how you athletically shoot somebody. So then your athletics are done because you stunted, but you get an extra die in your shooting. You can also get an extra die sometimes if you have an edge. You can get an extra die sometimes by taking an extra problem. You can get an extra die sometimes if you have a contact with you who has that skill. That person can help you out. You can get up to 3 extra die, and so that means you could theoretically have 5 dice to roll on a test. Whenever you have a general test, there are 2 types of
Mhm.
tests. There's a quick test and a regular test, or a challenge. A quick test is basically, hey, this is your number. You either make it or you don't. That's it.
Mhm.
Nothing more, nothing less. No bonuses, no penalties. Um, but then there's a more likely you're going to get a challenge. And with a challenge, I am going to give you a number, and that is your advance number. And if you make that number or higher, you advance. That's like a full success, and you probably are going to get an edge for it. And if there is another number that I will not tell you, and that is your setback number. It's lower than your advance number, but you don't know where it is. So somewhere between that setback and that advance is the hold. And that is like you do it, like you don't get an edge for it. There might be a little bit of a, might be a little, not a full success, but you're going to, it'll be fine, more or less, depending what the circumstances are. And then there's the setback. And if you hit that setback number, if you're below the setback threshold, then you have a problem and you fail. But you don't know what that number is. So if I say to you, well, there's a sense trouble test. I need you to sense trouble, and your sense trouble number is an 8. Then you have to decide, okay, all right, you roll your first die, and it's a 5. You roll your second die, and it's a 1, so you have a total of 6. You can think to yourself, is 6 good enough? Maybe you think it is good enough for a hold. Maybe you're afraid it's not good enough. And if you think it's not good enough, maybe you then decide to get extra dice somewhere, right? You do not have to get the extra dice ahead of time or spend your resources ahead of time. You can spend them afterwards. Like you can roll the dice that
Mhm.
you have and then keep adding one by one, or you can get them in advance before you roll. That's up to you. This, by the way, is the one tricky thing about this system. It makes a lot of sense once you get it. Once you play it, you'll pick it up. The rule is, if you make your advance number and you still have dice left over to roll, you get a push. So here's the one tricky thing about it. If you have 2 dice and you have the ability to get extra dice, but you don't pick them up, you want to wait till later, and you roll, you have to get an 8, you roll a 4, and you roll a 5. You make your number, but you have no dice left over, so you don't get the push, but you get the advance, you get all the stuff. If you think, I really want to push, you could go and stunt ahead of time, so you have 3 dice, rather than just the 2. And then, if you roll that 4 and that 5, that's a 9, and you have 1 dice less over, so now you get the push. But you've already stunted, right? So it's basically your choice. Do you want to use your resources in advance, which will give you a higher likelihood you'll get a push? Or do you want to hold off and just use those resources if you need it, which means you won't get the push, but then you won't use the resources in advance. You'll still have them for later. We'll talk about it more, but it's not that big of a deal. You will be getting in life problems, and some of those problems, oh, I should say this is important. You cannot die before the end of the adventure, unless you do something silly like jump off a cliff or something like that. Ta-da!
I gotcha.
You can die at the end of the adventure, though. And if it's not going well, you're going to know. How are you going to know? Well, there are some problem cards that might give you an indication that things aren't going well. Like, for example, you might get a problem card that says, you've been shot and you're bleeding out. And if you still hold this card, you're going to die. So, like, sometimes you'll just get cards that let you know, hey, you're bleeding a lot. You will die. And it's a real problem for you to have these. You can get rid of problem cards. Not your starting problem, but you can get rid of problem cards. You have to take time, though, to counter those problem cards. Like in this case, you'd have to go to a hospital or do medical aid on yourself. But that takes time, which lets other people do those things that they're needing to do. You know what I'm saying? Just a bit of a balance.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I thought you might. Excellent. So, before we get into it, I do need to ask you just a couple of questions, just for myself.
I'm ready.
For no reason whatsoever.
Oh, I'm not concerned even in the least.
Great. Your character, Loki, MI6, deep undercover. You had a therapist I saw in your notes.
Yes.
Could you describe what your therapist looked like?
My therapist, Miss Edith, she is white, female, average build, long, light brown hair, wore glasses, sharp features, and had piercing green eyes that would always look at you and make you kind of spill your guts.
Thank you. And this was your therapist provided by MI6?
Yes. My therapist since I joined.
Great. Just a small detail that I wanted to clear up. So, without further ado, if you are ready, shall we begin?
I am so ready.
You are sitting in your therapist office. Your work therapist office. You are not really... where are you at with MI6 right now? I feel like your relationship with them is not great.
No, things have not been going well since I returned from my last job.
Are you still technically on the payroll with them?
I don't check my my checking account very often. I have
Hmm.
a card with them where I usually do my expenditures,
Hmm.
and I haven't
Hmm.
charged that recently.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, you are nonetheless in your therapist office. It's a warm day. Your therapist is sitting in a chair. It's a brown upholstered chair. He has brown hair, a little thinning on the sides, a little bit of gray. Uh, he's got blue eyes, sort of gray blue eyes. And he has his pipe that he always smokes when you speak with him. And you are on a couch. It's sort of old school, really, in that way. And he's sitting on his chair, his armchair, smoking this pipe. You're on this couch, sort of reclining in his office. The blinds are closed, so you can't see outside of the windows. You're just there with him, and he has got his notepad as he's taking notes. And so he says, mm. And as he speaks, you realize he's an American, your therapist. So, um, you said you got a phone call. Is that right?
And in my head, I'm thinking, this isn't right. You're not Miss Edith, right?
Mm, he's not.
No, definitely not. He's American. That's the
Yes.
first clue.
Yes. Hmm. Well, but maybe he's been your therapist all along. Could be.
I um I got a call. Is Miss Edith going to be here? Is there a reason she's not?
Uh, Miss Edith?
Yes, Miss Edith.
Miss
My
Edith.
yes, my therapist.
Uh, uh, I'm your therapist. Miss
No, you're
Edith.
American.
Yes. Yes. I'm a specialist. Um, I work with agents who, well, I work with patients who are, I have a clearance, shall we say.
Why wasn't I informed of this before? Of this
We,
change?
I'm sorry, we have met before. You've been in my office a few times. Wait, have you forgotten?
Forgotten? I don't think so. No. And I
We've
look
met a
around at the office to make sure it's the same office I've always gone to.
no. It is not the same office you've always gone to.
No. No, I have not. What is this?
Uh, we have been meeting for about a year now, I would say. I have notes. Uh, yes, you, Alyssa Hall, MI6. Um, situation with a boat. Uh, parents. Hmm. Says here that you are having concerns about betrayal. Didn't trust necessarily your handlers. Uh, why don't you talk about that?
I trust it's and like I'm like standing up and I'm pacing along the couch I'm assuming I'm sitting on.
Yeah.
It's like betrayal, trust. It's all such a fickle thing in this line of work, isn't it? What
Mm.
did you say your name was again?
Oh, that's funny. Um, I well, this is not about me. This is about you. And there's a bit
Yes,
of
but this is a place where we share.
there's a bit of like a kind of a slight look of trouble on his face when you asked. Like you asked what his name was, and there was like a little bit of beat, and there was a bit of trouble on his face, as if the question was slightly disturbing to him personally. And he pivoted, right? Like he just pivoted that question off, but it did not feel as if he was pivoting because he was trying to deceive you, if that makes any sense. It wasn't like he was like, I cannot let her know, and so therefore I will pivot. It was like that wasn't the vibe you got. Yes, so, I'm sorry. You were going to say, trust.
Yes, trust. It's a two-way street. It's how I'm sure these sessions have gone for the past 6 months, correct?
About a year.
Back and forth.
About a year.
I'm sorry. About a year, Mr. Doctor, apologies. You worked hard for that degree, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. And he sort of sits there and he thinks about it for a second. And he looks at the walls, and there are diplomas on the walls. He kind of looks up at them and he sort of notes them and he comes back to you. Yes, yes. So, if I recall correctly, you got a voice message from a former colleague that disturbed you.
Did I? When was this?
And you ask that question, and he has this sort of look on his face. And he says, "Oh, I think we spoke about this the last time we had a session."
Did we? But we've only been patient doctor for only so long.
I think this was a relatively recent voice message. Something about your mother, I think.
My mother? My mother's been dead for years. Why would anyone call me about her? I remember getting a voicemail from a fairly disgruntled delivery person about a week back, but I don't remember any calls about my mother.
Well, then let's go back to one of the more regular topics. The blonde man.
Blonde man, brunette man?
No.
Are you certain?
The blonde man. You spoke of being haunted by a blonde man.
In what, my dreams?
No. In cases of yours. Seen him in places throughout your life, when you were on missions. A blonde man who never seemed to age.
Are you sure this is about me, Doctor? Is that my file? I don't recall seeing any blonde... I mean, I see a lot of blonde men, but the same one? Undercover?
Yes, that's what you told me.
I told you?
Yes, I'm certain.
I don't recall any blonde men. You said we started a year ago. A year ago? And
I believe so.
I don't know. I don't know, Dr. Brown, was it?
No.
Oh, apologies. That must be where you went to university, of course. My mind gets all these facts mixed up.
He thinks about it to see if that's true, right? You say this thing and he thinks about it. Brown. No, I don't think so.
Is it? This is not right. And like I point up at the things,
Diploma?
and I look at the clock. Yeah, the diploma, and then I look at the clock.
What time is it?
It's 9:30 a.m.
I'll just note that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and the diplomas are there. There's a clock there. The clock is sort of like an old school clock, like you would get in classrooms, right? Sort of the big circular white clock with the face and the hand, so you can hear it tick as it goes by. Hmm. Uh, yes. And he watches as you pace around the room. Are you all right?
A little extra energy I woke up with this morning. You know, when you just
Mm,
kind of feel restless.
mm.
I didn't get to my morning run-in in
Ah,
lieu of coming here, so
yeah.
I have a little bit of pent-up energy. I took a protein drink before this. Uh, so,
Do you seem at ill ease?
mm,
You can talk to me.
I
Uh,
have an entire year. We're very close, Doctor.
yes,
Um,
yes.
Dr. Williams. We're very close.
And he thinks about it. No, that's not it. I am. This is completely confidential, and nothing that you say here will leave here. You do remember that.
I remember lots of things, Doctor.
Hmm. Good, good.
Well, put me at ease. Tell me a story about your time at Yale. You're
And he
always
thinks
telling
about it.
me about when you were rowing.
And he sits back for a moment, breathes in his pipe, and he thinks, Yale? No, that's not right. I didn't go to Yale. And he looks at the diplomas, right? And he squints at them to see what they say, but he's sort of sitting farther away from them so he can't read them. No, it wasn't Yale. No. Did I row? No, I don't think I did.
You feeling okay, Doctor?
Oh, yes.
You seem
Yes, I
a
am.
little paler than normal.
Mm. Well, I don't get out much. So many clients, patients to talk to, so many people disturbed, so many people lost, in
Mhm.
danger.
That's why you got Archie, correct? Your little Scottish terrier a couple of months back.
Did I?
A little adorable thing. You had a photo on your desk.
Did I?
Yes, is
Mm,
it no longer there? Did you
mm. And he
replace
goes
it?
to look at his desk, and there are picture frames, but they're empty. I mean, there are photographs there, but the photographs are blank. He goes, no, I don't. I do think we had. I think. I think my daughter wanted a puppy. I don't think we got her one yet, though. Uh,
Are you sure, Doctor? Are you sure you're feeling okay right now?
oh, yes. Um,
Well, we have 5 minutes left in the
oh,
session. Would you like to end a little early so you can stand up, maybe get a drink?
hmm. I have to call my husband. I just never seem to have time, you know?
Time is a fickle thing. I understand, Doctor. And I go over to shake his
Ah,
hand, and I'm
and he stands
like,
up to shake your hand.
always a pleasure. Another great session, Doctor.
Yes.
I'll same time next week.
Yes, anytime. You can always find me here in the office whenever you need to find me. Hmm.
And before I walk out of the room, or as I'm walking out of the room, I do just a quick look around and notice to see if there's any, or maybe this isn't noticed, to look for any like electronic bugs or any cameras that might be in place.
That's a combination of, you've got a couple of skills you could use, and you can always use more than one to sort of fall back on. Tradecraft, electronic surveillance, and notice are all useful.
Okay.
Human terrain lets you know a little bit about people. Bullshit detector lets you know if they're lying to you. Tell me what you would like to utilize as you're walking out of the office.
I would like to utilize my would
and
it
you can
be
utilize
under
lots of
tradecraft?
things, by the way.
Would it be more tradecraft to be looking for bugs where they normally would be, where I've been taught pretty much to place them? Would that be more tradecraft?
Yes.
Or would that be...
Electronic surveillance will also give you different things. Tradecraft will give you a couple of things. One, it is known that agencies will have therapists who have clearances, right, to deal with agents who need therapy. You've had one before. And somebody who has that kind of clearance is rare, so it's not like you have lots and lots of them. It's plausible that he is such a therapist, but he wouldn't be your therapist, because he would probably be a therapist for the FBI or the CIA, perhaps. I mean, I suppose he could be an expat, but you don't. I mean, it makes sense. It's plausible, but there are things that don't make sense, about it. Looking about, this is also going to be a combination of notice as well to see where might bugs be. The pictures on the desk, they were blank, but when you look at them, they're all still blank except for one. And one shows a photograph of him and another man and a young girl. Just like it's like a family photograph. And it wasn't there before, or the photo was there, but it was blank. But now that he sort of had mentioned his daughter wanting a puppy, the photograph is there, or it's filled in. The diplomas are blurry, like you can't read where they're from or what his name is on them. And when I say blurry, I mean like a camera is blurry,
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get the sense that there are any electronic bugs here. The place seems awfully low tech in certain ways. And there are not a lot of places to hide bugs. Now, of course, bugs can be super miniaturized. You could probably hide a bug in many places. But he doesn't have a computer here in the office. There's no computer. Everything is analog rather than digital. And the phone is like an old school kind of phone, like an old telephone you'd pick up with it's not a rotary phone, but it's a little button kind of phone. And that feels a little old as well. But he's not dressed old, right? He's not dressed as if it's the past anyway. He's dressed like a modern contemporary person. It's just that the office seems a little out of time. Maybe he's just old fashioned, I guess. Yeah.
Then I will just exit. I'm confused. I don't know what's happening, but I would rather figure that out on my own time. And I'd rather get out of this location as soon as possible. So I walk out of the room. I open the door, walk out of the room.
And as you put your hand on the door, he says, remember, you just need to call me, or just come back into my office for our next meeting if you want to talk over anything. Come highly
Of,
recommended.
of course, Dr. Abbott. And
Hmm.
then I open the door and I walk out.
There's something vaguely familiar about him you sort of recognize as you're walking out. And as you walk out, you find yourself in a cafe. It's a busy sort of a cafe, people going in and out. It's downtown London. And you are seated, and the waiter walks up to you and goes, "Yeah, what do you want to drink?"
Um, just could I get an Americano, please?
Right, Americano. All right. When your guest comes, I'll lead him right over. And sort of like a young woman with like a trying to cover up the tattoos. You can tell she's got some makeup to cover up her tattoos because I think this cafe is a little bit. It's not like a funky cafe, so you don't get to be all tattooed all over the place. But you know, she's covered up. It looks like a college student. Sort of heads off back, and this place is full of people working on play scripts, doing work. It's kind of like a slightly upscale, slightly bougie, but a place where people sort of congregate and hang out. And
Mm.
you can see at the table where you're at, um, there's an empty coffee cup. Seems you've already finished an Americano already, um, which implies you've been here for a bit. And there is another chair at this table waiting for whomever you're waiting for.
A little inconsiderate that they're so late. Um, I look around. I look at over where they're making the drinks.
Mhm.
To see if they're actually making drinks. As a note, Loki doesn't know how to make, how to do anything. She's very much still like a coffee pot gal. If she even drinks coffee. So she does not know what the heck the people behind the bar do. It all looks like they're just moving and touching things, and it's
Yeah.
nothing. So I look over at to see the young woman and the young people behind the bar making
And they're
the
kind of
drink.
joking with each other, you know what I mean? Sort of like
Yeah.
they're having that moment where they get to chat with each other because they're not directly serving customers at that moment while they're making coffee and sort of laughing.
And I'm observing the behavior, and I take another glance out at the people at the cafe in case I recognize anyone.
And that is when you see a man approaching you. This is the man that you are here to meet. You had an appointment or a meeting, I suppose is the best way to put it. Um, you were contacted by someone from MI6 who wanted to have a meeting with you. And you set up a meeting at this place. This is standard practice. It's public, so you don't have to worry about that. And you can talk without necessarily being overheard. It's not suspicious. It is a standard thing to do to meet contacts or things like that in bars or restaurants or public places, parks. Uh, and so you are having some sort of meeting with a man named Jimmy Linklaith. Jimmy Linklaith,
Linkley? Wait,
Linklaith of MI6. And this is not anyone you've worked with before. This is someone who is contacting you about a former colleague, a friend of yours, a Harry Coleman. he wanted to talk to you about something important. Something having to do with Harry Coleman. Now, Harry Coleman did leave you a rambling voice message not too long ago. He seemed drunk. He seemed frightened. He said that you were right, that he needed to talk to you, that you were right all along, that he found out something about your mother, that it was important, that he had to talk to you, that you'd be the only one who might be able to believe him. But he didn't leave a message or a way to contact him. Now, you haven't seen Harry in some time because he was working the Moscow desk, and he actually, last thing you know, that he'd been in Russia for the last few years. I think the official story was that he left MI6, although you know full well that that is not true. As far as you know, he was on some kind of mission out there, he was doing some kind of intel work for MI6 out in Moscow, but you don't know what. It has been a couple of years since you have seen him. And coincidentally, this person is coming to speak with you about Harry. But before he sits down, let me ask you, how do you know Harry Coleman? Like, were you close? What was your relationship with him in terms of, colleagues? He's married. He's got a wife. Have you met her? Tell me something about how you and Harry knew each other, because you've been an agent since for a while now, right? I mean, how long?
I have been officially an agent since I was 18, but I entered the midst of MI6 when I was about 16 going on 17.
After your parents died?
Yes, after my parents died.
Mm.
And Harry, I met Harry. Harry was my first handler on my first undercover job.
Mm.
And it was a little messy, but he helped me through it. And from there, he helped me with several more jobs. And I have met his wife, not their daughter. But I have met the wife. I always joked with them before they got married. And was one of the people that, shoved him to make it an official thing.
Yes, he has been away, though. He's been sort of off in Russia for the last couple of years. About 4 years he's been gone, doing something out in Russia. Spying, most likely, but under some kind of pretext, I'm sure. So you haven't really seen him in 4 years' time. I suppose he was promoted. But as you are waiting, this man shows up. Let me bring you to him for the moment. So let me make sure that everyone else can see him as well. He is very young, this guy. Very young. He looks, you're what, mid-late 20s? How old are you?
I am, no, thank you very much. I am 36.
You've been doing this for a while.
I have been, thank you very much.
This guy does not look 36. He looks maybe 22, 23, perhaps.
Mm.
Um, Probably. Um, he looks like he's still in university, to be honest. Um, Looks like a college student. And he has got this shock of blonde hair, and his suit is actually quite expensive, and he's wearing like some kind of tie pin, look like perhaps like a university club tie pin of some sort. And he walks in with like a briefcase and a bit of a jaunty step. And he says, "Oh, I say, hello, hello." And he sits down, and you're like, "Oh, Oxford, Cambridge, probably, right?" That's
Mhm.
that kind of accent. Um, his suit is more expensive than agents normally wear,
Mhm.
which means he probably comes from money. Um, he probably comes from money. And he sits down and he goes, "Up," and he puts his hand out. "It is such a pleasure to meet you. Hello, hello. I'm Jimmy Linklave. You can call me Jimmy or Link if you like. I'm so happy that you agreed to meet with me. Oh, I'm so sorry. Excuse me." And he just sort of snaps at he just sort of snaps at the people in the back, and the woman who is your barista walks over and she goes, "Yeah, how can I help you, sir?" And he's like, "Get me oh, something like He's just kind of looking her up and down with a little bit of distaste. Um, well,
Get Mr. Linklave an English tea. So,
oh,
it's a normal English tea.
thank you, thank you. That's exactly what I'd like. I hope it's good quality, and don't boil the water. Yes, thank you." And he just sort of sits down and just sort of dismisses her as he sits across from you. Uh, Please, I am honored that you could come meet with me. I flew all the way out here from uh, Russia with a bit of a sticky wicket, and I thought that you might be the perfect person to approach with this problem."
Of course, Mr. Linklave. What were you doing out in Russia?
Yes, yes. Now, do you know that phrase, "Oh, to have the confidence of a mediocre white guy"?
Yes.
Yes. He does not know that phrase, but he embodies it. Um,
Hmm.
w- well, you see, we have a bit of a problem, you see. One of our agents has gone, well, dark, as it were. Um, yes, a British, uh, one of us, well, sort of looks at you, not quite certain if you really are one of us or not. It's, you can tell he's not 100% certain if that's a true statement anymore. One of ours, has gone missing in Moscow, you see. Um, he was operating without diplomatic cover from the embassy, so he was not connected to the embassy at all, and his activities were a little, I say, uh, self-directed, as it were. Uh, let's say, and um, he's gone missing, and we do need to find him and uh, bring him home quietly and with deniability, and without the Russian FSB getting involved. And well, I we need someone who can bring him in, someone who is not so closely connected with the Home Office. And my understanding is that you are a little bit less connected uh, to the Home Office as you have been in the past. So that would make you the perfect person to go and find our missing agent and bring him back.
And what is your connection with this agent, Mr. Linklave?
Well, I am working out of the embassy myself, so I actually have diplomatic cover. Um, so I'm, how would you say, the point of contact for various, various things happening down there, and well, um, we can't find him anymore. So, if you would, we'd like to give an assignment. This is not coming from headquarters here in London, but indirectly it is. This is more or less coming from the outfit here in Moscow. In Moscow, your assignment will be to get into Moscow, track. His name, by the way, is Harry Coleman.
Mm.
My understanding is that he was your first handler, so I thought you might be interested at least. Well, anyway, track him down and get him out of the country quietly and quickly. And if you can do this, well, we'll pay you, of course, a reasonable fee for your services, and well, you'll get a favor from people within the Home Office.
I give him a quick once over, and I say, and like I put my hand out to get the file or the USB or whatever. He's
Yes,
gonna
your
give
file.
me
And manila
the
manila
information
envelope.
with.
Yep.
Manila, and I say,
By the way,
when did
you
he
know that Coleman was very professional, very stubborn, would not give up easily. And that if he had a lead, he would not give up that lead. That was one thing you knew about him. He would never be deterred from unraveling a puzzle. Like if he got an idea in his head that there was a puzzle, there was something that was not right, he would not stop until he figured it out. And he always he would never take things at face value, right? If there was, he's like, oh, wait, if there was like the obvious answer, he'd always just keep digging. He was a kind of a person who just kept digging.
Oh, for sure. I am definitely freaking out on the inside, but I'm not gonna let this chav know that I care anymore, that I have to about this job. It's like, and how long has he been missing?
Oh, not long at all, about a week or so, I'd say. And by the way, the voice message you got was right before he went missing. You know, like maybe a day or two.
And you say he was working out of Moscow, that is?
Yes, that's right. That's correct. I could probably give you a bit more about that if you're interested. He was running a brokerage that connects wealthy Russians with investment and property opportunities overseas. It's called, it's basically sanctioned money laundering. You know, if we, it's the way in which we can track money back and forth. Like we can get money in to various agents or back and forth. You know, but Vauxhall, we're able, HQ, as it were, we're able to see who's doing what sort of oligarchs are doing what. It's a good way to gather intel and to do other sorts of work as well. Yes, but he was not working out of the embassy. He was working out of his own, this brokerage firm that he was attached to. Cathedral Dome Investments is what it was called.
Interesting name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially out there in Moscow.
Yes, indeed.
Have you interacted with Harry at all?
Oh, not so much. He had a scheduled check-in. I would do check-ins with him, but he did not check in. Now, I must say, as you know, Moscow rules. Being in the embassy, it's not like I have complete freedom. I'm always being watched by FSB wherever I go, so it's not like I could meet with him quite regularly. I'll try to keep a bit of a distance, but he did have a scheduled check-in that he did not show up for last week, and I sent out people to try to contact him, and we could not find him at all. Well, now, the HQ, they're a bit cautious about trying too hard to find him, because if we go quite official, that would blow his cover, make it a bit too obvious, wouldn't it? So wanting someone who's a bit less official, like someone like yourself.
Of course, and where did the orders come down from? And I close the folder.
The folder, by the way, has got passport, tickets, false name, a way in, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have something to give you, actually. I
Ooh.
believe I have it set up. Just let me make sure. Let me get my edges. Show. Hello, edges. I'm going to pick an edge for you. It is this one. There you go. If you would, you have an edge as he hands over this folder. If you would read it.
Can you change the page in Roll20 so I can
No.
so I can see it?
Yes, I can. Here you go. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that. I changed it for the audience, but not for you. And before you open the folder says, this is only if you agree, by the way. Will you?
I mean, if it's coming up from the top, what choice do I really have?
A bit more from the side, but yes.
And so the edge is Link Lathes folder. MI6 have provided you with a passport and cover, but do you trust MI6? You may discard this card to automatically hold on any cover test in Moscow. If you do so, gain problem 8 marked. Spicy.
Yes. Now, and by the way, if there are any skills you want to use during this conversation, you just let me know.
Oh, that's great. That's a great, oh man, a couple of things. Okay, so, I would like to do a high society check on him.
Ooh, yes. High society. You have that skill. That's a very interesting skill to have. 1, this guy's loaded. Absolutely loaded. There is this will be pinging off of tradecraft as well. It's a bit of a duo there. There's a long history of people that work in MI6 and MI5 being exceedingly wealthy people. Going back to the 20s and 30s, from the very early days of British intelligence, the OSS, MI5, MI6, they have tended to recruit, not exclusively, but there is a habit that they have had to recruit from some of the wealthiest quasi-aristocrats coming out of Oxford and Cambridge. People who, there's been a bit of a weird, sort of related to James Bond in certain ways, where a bunch of sort of kind of rich guys just imagine themselves being classy, playing, like, it's kind of like a weird rich guy's fantasy in certain ways, and there's been a long history of that. But also, there's this sort of stereotype and idea that the best intelligence agents are going to have to, of course, be the smartest and the most gentlemanly and the most, like, there's a wing of British intelligence that's a lot of very wealthy people. He is clearly one of those people. You would say Oxford, probably. You would say that he has not been in the field long. He's at the embassy, which means they sent him there also because of his connections, right? Being somebody who's rich, wealthy, connected, it makes sense that he get a job in an embassy because that's also another old boys network. So it's a pretty good cover. He can also use his contacts to meet with people. Being somebody who is of extreme privilege means that he can meet people without it seeming strange. You've heard of him before? I don't think you've met him before. When you have heard of him, it would have been a couple of years ago, maybe like 2 years ago or so. in the society pages, something about, like, I think he was probably partying with some of the royals. Like, there was a crew of them, they played
Mm.
polo, and, you probably saw them in the society pages where they were sort of part of, like, a crew that would play polo and party and drink, and it was, like, this sort of young young aristocrats sort of hanging out, having a good time. Um, if you remember correctly, he himself is minor aristocracy, right? Like, a lord of some sort, but he's not a duke or anything like that, right? He's one of these sort of the 13th Baron of something or other. So the title is not actually, he doesn't hold it yet because his parents do. The title is not particularly important. He mostly has his money from business, probably, or his family's money. But he's part of that particular kind of rich, sort of drunken jet set, but they're not new money. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But if you recall, the scene is pretty wealthy, but he may not be as wealthy. His family may not be as wealthy as the rest of the people he used to hang out with.
Ah, okay.
Not that he's poor, um, but he's also not he's not from an oil tycoon family.
Yeah. Or a steel tycoon. Yeah, yeah,
No, no.
yeah.
Also, he probably has only been in MI6 for a year at most. At most. Because if you recall him being in college 2 years ago, that means he must have graduated very recently and then just got snapped
Hmm.
up. He probably just finished training. So his qualifications would be fresh. Fresh. Let's call them fresh qualifications. Yes.
That's a nice way to put it. More
Yeah.
nice than he deserves.
Probably. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He's a member
All
of
right.
Country Club. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to go off of the question, who gave you this to give to me, essentially. I would also like to do a bureaucracy check on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one to choose. So, bureaucracy says a couple of things to you. One, he's, from what you understand, he's stationed in Moscow, and he has come to London to meet with you in order to give you this assignment. Your bosses haven't. Well, I know that you're not really talking to them right now, so it seems a
Complicated.
little complicated. Um, he seems to know that you have a somewhat complicated relationship with your bosses. Um, whether or not you're actually in MI6 right now seems to be a little bit up in the air, and that seems to be something that is interesting for him. It does not, how do I put this? MI6 has many different people in it. Not all of them have the same agenda or want the same things or um, always know what each other are doing. He has heard about you. This you're certain. He's also heard that you may not be in the best of graces or that your status is somewhat unclear. And
Hmm.
so he came here personally to give you this mission. As a person who is, you would say he's probably the station chief, right? Bureaucratically, he's probably in charge of intel in Moscow. Because these things always happen through the embassy. Now, he mentioned that Coleman was self-directed, which implies to you that Coleman did not answer to him. That Coleman probably was there. Well, Coleman was there before he got there, and that Coleman was probably doing something independent of Linklave and the embassy, which could be a different mission altogether, maybe a deep undercover mission where he might do a check-in, but they're not in the same chain of command, right? This guy
Yes.
was not Coleman's handler. Now, there is a bit of a bureaucratic question here. He clearly could not have done this without Vauxhall's permission or approval. I mean, I suppose he could. I suppose he could have lied and done this without their permission. But the paperwork's legit, right? So you're getting the sense that maybe Well, the obvious thing that you would know is that this is bad. If an agent who's doing some kind of independent or kind of secret or slightly off the books, it seems, work goes missing, that's real bad. Because if he gets caught by the FSB, who is the follow-up of the KGB, that could be really bad. That could be an international incident. So if they're going to rescue this person, they cannot do it with official sources. You are an unofficial source, right? So it makes sense that you would be chosen because of your kind of slightly complicated um, status at the moment. Um, and that means that they can always say that you don't work for them. If you get caught, they can say it's not on them. That is very definitely part of why you are being asked. Because, you know, if you get caught, you don't work for them. And that is going to be a believable thing. However, you get something else from this situation that's not really about you, it might be about him.
Mm,
He's not the kind of person who's really qualified to do a search and rescue mission like this.
mm,
And they have put him in charge of a search and rescue mission like this. And he's your guess is probably that he sought you out because it was his good idea, and it may not be the best idea to have him be doing what he's doing this mission. Like if they really cared about getting Coleman back, they would probably do
mhm,
something slightly different, which says to you, um, either this is a last ditch effort and they've tried other things that have not worked, or they don't think he's alive. Right? Either this
mm,
is not a mission that they think is they've got to do their best, right? They have to say that they sent somebody out to try to find this person. Either they think he's dead already and they don't think you're going to succeed at this mission, or or they're desperate, or there's some kind of larger political pressure between Moscow and London that means they have to be really, really careful. So it doesn't seem to you like not a lot of confidence, I think is the best way to put it. Not a lot of confidence.
um, and so, um, I
And
look at him,
also,
I look at his little, oh, go ahead.
bullshit detector is always a skill you can use at any time.
Oh, yeah, sure, let's throw that in there.
Just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just want to remind you of your skills because we're starting to assess
Then
how honest he is.
then I'll apply that in this next question, or this next plausition I'm gonna give,
Get your vibe.
in the way that I say, it's oh, it's been about a week. It's a little odd to already be sending out your big guns.
Yeah, well, what he's doing is certainly important enough, isn't it? So we can't let him just go be missing. We'll have to go and find him after all. I mean, couldn't do to have one of our people be caught. I mean, who knows what he's found? I'm sure someone like you, you're good at this sort of thing, can just find him and bring him right back. And as he's speaking, someone like you bring him right back. Um, he's not lying to you about Coleman going missing a week ago. All of that seems true. It's not lying to you about him not showing up for the check-in. All that rings true to you as well. However, he doesn't seem to be setting you up for a trap or anything like that. But you do get the vibe that he is skeptical of you, that maybe he's heard some things about you, like office gossip, that makes him think that you are probably not, oh, how do I put this? There are people at MI6 who would say very great things about you. You have a long history of great work and success and amazing undercover uh, skills. There may also be some other rumors about you, um, things you've said about seeing somebody who doesn't age over a couple of decades. There might be some rumor and gossip about your stability, let's say. You were put on vacation or on leave, or perhaps a little bit, being a little overworked. And you get the sense that maybe he's heard these rumors about a tad bit of instability. And so you get the sense that he's a bit skeptical of you, of your ability to actually do this job. So that's interesting. But if you give me a push, you might pick up on some things, some other things, if you'd be interested in giving me a bullshit detector push.
Yeah. I'll do a little bullshit detector push.
This is for extra info. Perhaps
Yeah.
a bit on the side. So if you'll delete one of your tokens. As he's a little bit blasé. So there's the mission. And that's what you're getting about the mission, right? There's a mission. He's a contact person for Coleman who's doing some kind of work. You figure he knows something about what that work is, which you could probably press him on.
Mm-hmm.
He would have to know something. He may not know all the details, but he might know something about what Coleman was working on. And he is a bit skeptical of you and what you're about. He also clearly sees you as a disposable and deniable asset. Maybe you were recommended to him, like, oh, here's somebody that, like, okay. He doesn't seem to think that you're gonna find you. He gets a sense that you get the sense that he thinks this is a stupid mission, right? In certain ways, right? That it's
Yeah.
a little bit silly, but also you get something else about him. You get the sense that he's in some way personally invested in finding out what happened to Coleman in a way that is a little bit at odds with the rest of the vibe. Um, and you get a sense that he's a little bit too eager to get this whole thing wrapped up. And you very, very clearly, in that one little blink of an eye, get the sense that that it would benefit him to get this investigation wrapped up quickly and with news that Coleman is no longer alive.
I figured.
Which is like, you're like, oh, he doesn't want you. Well, no, that's not right. It's not that he doesn't want you to find Coleman. He wants you to find Coleman, and he wants you to find Coleman dead, and he wants you to find Coleman dead real fast. And you get the sense that if those things come to pass, he will in some way profit from this. It will somehow benefit him somehow.
And as he's sitting there, I'm like, well, what's the weather like in Moscow at the moment?
Oh, well, it's a bit gray, but it's not so bad. Yes, no, it's all right. But you have to watch out for bugs, if you know what I mean.
No. uh, I mean, it has to be at least nice to be back. Is this your first time back?
Oh, well, I try to fly back for parties and as much as I can. You know, it's and like when he says that, you're like, right, you're not coming back for work, right? Like you're coming back for fun. Um, yes, but it is lovely to be back, but there's so much to do in the uh, diplomatic corps, if you know what I mean. Uh, yes. Oh, could you go as soon as possible? I just like this. I mean, if I would just like our dear old Harry rescued as soon as possible, of course.
Of course, is everything that is need to know written down, or is there anything you left off to just be between us?
Oh, like what?
I'm not sure. You said
Not your sort of strange
about a week ago.
conspiracy? Oh, what?
Well, he went missing about a week ago, and he was
Yes.
researching something a little bit off the grid. It would be reasonable if he didn't want certain channels to know what that off the grid information may be.
Well,
Understandable.
yes, that's
It's not on
true.
you.
No,
That was
I
all
mean,
Coleman.
yes, no. I mean, I can tell you the general gist of what he was up to, although I don't know. Oh, yes, thank you for the tea. And the woman comes back and just like plops the Americano on this like Earl Grey tea and kind of gives you a smile. And you can see that she's put a little extra cookie on the side of your plate and has not for him. And she sort of heads back off. And you could tell when she goes back there, she's talking about him to her friends. You know. You know.
Absolutely, I do know.
Um, and he goes, well, I can give you the broad strokes, not all the details, of course. You know, what he was doing there, as far as I know, was to, and as he begins to speak, you can tell this bores him. Not you having a conversation with you bores him, but whatever, like, intel work Coleman was doing seems to bore him. Um, like, he doesn't care about this, right? There's a lot of
Makes
intel work
sense.
that might be boring, right?
Yeah,
It was my understanding it was investigating is to look at the Russian military-industrial complex, especially high tech or unusual weapons developments, cyber intrusions or psychological ops or non-linear warfare, that sort of thing. You know, is actually, I mean, the thing is, if you want my opinion, he sort of became obsessed with it. Really, it was obsessed with all this sort of like I don't know, some sort of just looking to see what sort of dangerous and high grade secret military weapons programs the Ruskies are up to. I guess, but it sort of became a little bit unhinged, a bit concerned. I mean, and he sort of gets this kind of sort of slightly smug look. My understanding, he's sort of talking about like you've been talking.
oh, how I've been talking. I see
How I've heard.
gossip who goes all the way over to Moscow.
Well, it's not every day that your agents start seeing boogeymen or some such. You still seeing
Oh,
boogeymen?
you speak about an ex one time and it gets blown up as seeing a blonde man in your dreams in random corners in different jobs. Shows up
Sure.
one time at one job and suddenly it gets blown out of proportion.
As well.
One person
Apparently,
doesn't like
he's
you.
gone around the bend a little bit like you, is what they've said. Obsessed with some sort of something. I don't quite know what. Seems silly, whatever it is. A bit of a waste of time, but I suppose when you get obsessed, you just waste everyone's time when you could be doing other things. Nonetheless, he was doing something with Russian military high grades weapons programs of some sort. I don't really know what, but whatever it is, um, I'm sure it's actually nothing, just ghosts. By the way, Bullshit Detector says he actually believes all of that. He
Oh, a
100%.
1000%.
Yeah. It's you do not get the sense that he knows there's a secret vampire conspiracy and is lying to you about it. You get the sense that he does not know about any secret vampire conspiracy whatsoever, and he thinks all of this is stupid. Yes.
Look, he's here to talk to important people and feel important, look
Yes,
pretty,
he
and
is.
then come back and
Yes.
party.
Yes, he
The
is.
less actual
Yes, he
work he
is.
has to do, the happier he is. This is
These are
really
all true
killing his
things.
vibe.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. This is killing his vibe. He would prefer, yes, yes. He would not be sad if Coleman were dead. You don't know why, but he just does not want his party ruined. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, a week out, it shouldn't be too difficult. Well, it might be. I'm assuming you've sent other people out. I'm not the first choice.
Well, I mean, it's only been a week, and we didn't want to send. I mean, look, I'm being observed all the time. I'm so important, working at the embassy. Of course, the FSB would be looking at me all the time. I'm a person of great interest. I mean, being I'm basically the station chief there. At any time, I'm quite young too. As a matter of fact, I'm quite proud of myself. So I just can't do it myself, and so we needed someone who could, go there, do the business, get it done quick and all that. Yes. So I thought, considering that, well, rumor has it you're in need of a job and a little bit of extra cash, maybe a little bit of redemption. Well, and look, I've got influence, and I can probably make your life a little bit easier if you do a good job at this one. Fast and just bring in the results of your investigation. Just let me know what. I'm sorry. As Vauxhall says, find Coleman, bring him back, or if he's something's happened to him, just let us know that as well. Yes.
Well, it seems like an easy enough job. Is there anything I should know about the politics, the contact there?
Oh.
Obviously, you're a very important person.
I am. Also, I should tell you, in case you don't know, because I will be flying back to Moscow myself, and I'll be at the embassy, and because I am just so well known and important, I'm under constant surveillance. It's the difficulty of being such an important agent like I am is something that most people couldn't handle. Well, you have to have nerves of steel and just be a certain cut above. So because of that, I will be there, but I won't be able to just meet with you at any moment. I'm just too visible for that. Though, if you want a quick meeting with me, I should be able to, slip my handlers if you need advice from me or help finding anything. After all, I've been there for an entire 9 months. I know Moscow like the back of my hand, and I can just help you out if you're a bit lost. I can do it, but you'll have to, you have to give me a bit of a moment so I can make sure that anybody who might be following me, I slip them. I'm quite expert at that, but just give me a bit of a heads up, a bit of a advance notice, of course. Let me see. Yes, all I can tell you is he was over at Cathedral Drome Enterprises. That's where he was working undercover. I should say, Cathedral Dome is one of ours, by the way. It's an MI6 cutout company, so it's ours, mostly there to bring money back and forth and observe what's happening. But I imagine that would be the best lead for you to find out, to see who he works with and all of that, and if they have any news. Yes, I imagine so.
Absolutely, it sounds like it shouldn't be too difficult.
No,
I knew a little
no.
bit about Coleman.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. Yes, it would do what it is you do. I'm understanding you're quite good at this sort of thing. If you would, though, I would just like this wrapped up as quickly as possible. I don't like the idea of one of our one of our own just out there in the cold, perhaps even being, oh, I don't know. I mean, if the FSB has him, it'd be terrible. So could you just go? I mean, he might be drunk somewhere. Really, who knows? If you could just find him, bring him back home to good old London, that would be lovely. Yeah, but please,
There's a
if you find out anything, just let me know as soon as you can. I will be in Moscow with the embassy, having parties and uh, meeting with people. I can make time for you.
Before you go, chap,
Mm,
you said drunk. When I knew Coleman, he wasn't too much of a drunkard, like to drink here and there. Was that
yeah.
a new hobby he picked up?
Oh. Uh, and you can see he's like rolling his mind back to see if he can try to even just remember, because you get the sense that he does not really know Coleman very well or have met with him very often. You don't get the sense that uh you're gonna
That's his
guess
job.
he's probably met Coleman a couple of times, but
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't really have any kind of personal connection to Coleman, though he does seem personally invested in finding out what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
Preferably that he's dead. So he goes, oh, well, my understanding is that he was under quite a bit of stress near the end. I mean, recently. Um, so, and then he stopped. He goes, yes, no, actually, yes, yes. My understanding is he actually was drinking quite a bit unstable, my understanding. A bit, well, who knows? My understanding is he's probably doing quite a bit of a bad job at this point in time. A bit unstable, unsafe, definitely should be brought back, no matter what. Um, yes, that's right. Yes, yes. Drinking quite a bit, maybe a little bit too much. Um, maybe being a bit sloppy in his work, a bit unreliable is what I'd say. Yes, 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 yes. That's
And
right.
on the
Unreliable.
bullshit meter, is that
Mm,
is that him just kind of throwing them under the bus to
yes,
absolve himself?
yes, yes. That is exactly your sense is that he is purposely trying to discredit this guy, um, so that even if you do find him, he probably is going to be taken. He's setting up enough of a story so that he could recommend that this guy be taken off the job and sent back to London, and people will buy it and will listen to him.
Mm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Of course, of course.
You
Um,
do not get the sense that he knows anything about whether or not this guy was drinking too much or not. That this is
mm,
he's thrown him on the bus, and you actually get that he's probably lying about the drinking thing. Uh, when he talks about the unreliable and the unstable and the drinking, um, tricky about the bullshit. One, the drinking thing is probably just not true. That's just him just straight up lying in order to make
yeah.
him look bad. Throw him on the bus. Unreliable, unstable. Is that bullshit? Does he believe what he's saying? Um,
How many times has he said it to like other people or in his mind? Because that would determine it.
yeah, yeah. I think that what I can say to you is he thinks this guy is a problem, that this
Mm-hmm.
guy is obsessed, and therefore he's not easy to work with. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
Uh,
yeah.
unreliable, that seems like he believes that. But I think he means that as in he's not a team player. He cannot rely on him to do what he wants him to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, which is maybe not the same thing as like he's off his rocker and is dangerous, but more like this
Yeah.
guy is not playing ball. But also, you get the sense that he does think this guy is maybe talking some conspiracy theories. He seems to think this guy is not the most stable, but that doesn't mean he's not stable, right? So
Yeah.
there is some kernel of truth, or he believes some of the things he's saying, but he's also playing it up in order to discredit this guy so he can get him kicked off the job, basically.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that should be everything I need, and if I need anything, I will let you know through
Excellent.
our channels.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to wish you I hope you'll do a great job, a bang-up job, and get this done quickly as possible, because, we don't need loose ends running about embarrassing us in Moscow. There's a lot going on there,
Oh, I'm sure you're doing a wonderful job taking care of them.
Oh, have you? Has anyone said anything about me?
About Linklave, yes, I've heard a thing or two about
Yes.
what's happening over there in Moscow.
Did
It's
anyone say?
impressive.
Did any of the bosses say anything? I'm keeping everything under control, doing a good job.
Well, I
As
heard
best I.
something about at a year mark at the review that there might be some changes happening.
Oh,
But you didn't hear it from me.
well, all right. Well, thank you very much. I hope that you get your man. No, if you need any advice from me, I'm quite experienced. 22. I would be happy to just give you any of my wisdom.
Of course, of course. Thank you very much, Mr. Linklave.
Mm.
Have a wonderful rest of the stay before you head back out.
Oh, you too. And he sort of takes a sip of his tea, gets up, and he walks out like he is just the best. Do you know what I mean? Like, he did such a good job. I do have some presents for you.
And while you're dispersing those, I'm just gonna take off my glasses and really give a show to the barista that was a chore and a half, which isn't a lie. It was a chore and a half.
She just walks by, passes you like a croissant, and then just gives you a wink and walks back behind right as she picks up
Thank you.
his stuff. He also didn't finish his tea, by the way.
No, I surprised he even touched it, to be honest with you. He wouldn't shut up.
Nope. 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 But you have 2 more presents.
Ooh, all right.
If you'd read them out.
Let's see. Our first new present is Edge Continuity, Coin of the Realm. You've got access to funds from the single intelligence account. Discard this card to draw down several £1,000 in untraceable cash. Ooh, all right.
That was a nice card for you. They've got resources.
Yes, they do. And I am not so many anymore. Edge Continuity, a favor from Vauxhall Cross. MI6 owes you a favor. Discard this card to cash it in. It's a dangerous thing to have, Mr. Vauxhall Cross.
I will note that these are both continuity edges. Anything that is a continuity card, problem, or an edge does not clear at the end of the mission. So
Okay.
you keep it as long as you don't use it. So you can keep that forever. That also involves problems, though. So we're about to go to break, but before we do, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go directly to Moscow, or do you want to do anything here in London before you leave?
I would like to spend some time in London before I leave.
Let me ask you, what are you going to do in London before you fly out?
I am going to collect a couple of things from my apartment.
Are you going to go back to your apartment?
I am. I'm gonna go
Okay.
grab some things that I might need for the job, and then, pending on that, maybe some other things in London.
All right, because there's always people to see, research, things to do before you leave to go off to Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, we're going to go on break. We're going to take a 10-minute so you can stretch your legs, get some water, think about how Jimmy Linklave is your best friend and the most qualified person ever.
Oh man, his entire head was wet. He's just that wet behind the ears, man.
Oh, super. Like, he's super wet behind the ears. He does not have a lot of experience at
I have
all.
more experience in my pinky toe when it was below the age
Yeah.
to start at
Yeah.
6.
Yeah. And you also feel like you probably worked a lot harder than he did to get where he is.
Although I wouldn't want to do his job, so more power to him.
No, his job, he's not undercover like you. He's very public, right? And people know his name and his family name and who he is, and he works at the embassy. He's public while you are private.
The exact opposite.
Before we go, I want to just think about that voice message you got. Where Coleman, who you hadn't heard of in 4 years, says that you were right and that he has something very important to tell you. Something about your mother. What do you make of that?
I trust Coleman. Coleman has done a lot for me, especially at the beginning of my career when not a lot of people were looking very kindly at a young woman suddenly starting at MI6. And I don't know if mother is a code word, a code name that I'm just not remembering from back then. I apparently have been having a lot of issues with my memory as of late. So I don't know if that was an internal thing for us, because he can't be talking about my mom. My mom's been dead for well over 20 years.
Yeah. It was not a code name that you recall.
No. But that's the only plausible thing I can think of. What my mother was an accountant, just
right.
The bank.
Yeah, totally normal.
16 years. It's like, what could she have to do with any of this? With anything in Moscow? Who knows? That
makes no sense.
No. But I trust that he has something to tell me, and that's enough for me.
I just wanted to double check. You never got to see the bodies of your parents, right? Because it was a state situation, right?
Yeah, no, I was asleep. We got hit by a car. I became concussed. I didn't really know what was happening until I was blinded by the lights in the hospital. And at that point, I was being told my parents were dead. And after that, I couldn't really leave the hospital. Yeah. People wouldn't really tell me anything, but I was also underage, so things were weird. And then someone told me my parents were dead, and then we had a vigil for them, and that was it. They got cremated before I could see them.
I'm so sorry.
I hear it was for the best.
I mean, sure that there was a lot of damage.
That's what they said?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I wouldn't worry about it. Let's just go to break. I'm sure there's nothing. I wouldn't worry about it. Anyway, you can always talk to your therapist about it if you want.
Yeah, Dr. Alco, something like that.
Something like that. You know what? We're just going to go to break. We're going to take a 10. When we come back, everything will be fine, everybody. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Hello, and welcome back to Seasons of Death Spring, The Deniable Woman, Part 1. With our amazing PBPlaysInside as Agent Codename Loki, who apparently is on a medical leave from the MI6, or on break, is on a break.
Yeah, it's just a break.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
And just had a meeting with their therapist that they don't exactly remember. It's a little bit weird. Yeah. So, my friend, you have left this meeting with Jimmy Linklater, who is, so basically, if you do not know it, people in chat, embassies always have spies in them. It's just kind of how it is. That's what you do, because people who work in embassies are able to take documents in and out of the embassy without them being looked at. So if there's an embassy anywhere in this country, there is probably somebody there who works there who is also a spy. And Jimmy Linklater is MI6's person at the British Embassy in Moscow, which is a pretty important mission, but also he's a visible, embassy employee. And he went to go and find our questionably employed agent codename Loki to offer her a really important mission, which an MI6 officer, former handler for Agent Loki, has gone missing. This agent was working on investigating secret Russian military weapons programs, psyops, things like that. And apparently, according to Linklater, had gotten a little bit conspiratorial and weird, and not interesting, and has gone missing. Shortly before he went missing, he left a voicemail message on Alyssa Hall's phone, encrypted, saying that she was right, that he has something very important to tell her, and that he knows something about her mother. That's it. So, we won't talk about the strange therapy session you had with your therapist, who's not the one that you remember having before. But yes, so tell me, you've gone to your apartment to pick up a few things, and what do you do next? You have a folder full of stuff. You have money that's non-traceable. You've got if you do this well, you can get a favor from MI6. This is great. Everything is fine. So what do you do?
Everything is fine, but I don't feel fine is the problem, which has been the problem, which is why MI6 is unhappy with me at this point in time.
Yeah.
So first thing I do is I check the time.
Mm-hmm.
I check the digital clock on my on the computer in the room.
So I'm going to ask you to do some math for me, if you don't mind.
Okay. I'm ready.
So, if you were at your therapist's at 9:30 in the morning, and then you went from your therapist's to that cafe, and then you had that meeting with Linklater, and then you got back to your apartment, what time would it be?
I would say probably edging on 11-ish.
Right. It is 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, just, I assume that his clock was off, is what I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have a question for you,
sure.
GM.
I love answering questions. They make me so happy.
Is this not new? Is this something that has been happening to me as of late or in my life?
It is not new. It has happened before. but it hasn't. It has only happened and then started happening in the last year.
Okay.
Never before then. Only in the last year. And it happened like a couple of times and then not, and then it happened a couple more times recently. Like it's been happening a little bit more frequently recently. It was like you had like a I need you to
Mm.
there's some questions I need answered before I can tell you things. There are different ways I can answer this question for you. There's more than one answer
Okay.
to this question.
Okay.
And I need you to ask me some follow-up questions so that I can answer them fully. So
All
what I
right.
would say is, let's take this year time period. There was a moment, let's say in the beginning of this last year, where you had this happening a lot more frequently, and then nothing for a while, and then more frequently of late.
Okay.
Mhm.
What happened at the beginning of the year or the beginning of this year that this has been happening?
That's a weird question. I can't believe you'd ask me that. Do you want to talk about it? Are you,
Um,
are you thinking about it?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah. I would like to
Are
know
you?
about it. Yeah.
You'd like to
Yeah.
think about it?
I would like to think about it. Yeah.
Before I say anything, I need to
Mm-hmm.
just make it clear to everybody, you, me, and the audience, that at this moment, Alyssa Lynn Hall is thinking back to what happened about a year ago. Is that correct?
Yes, that is what's happening at this
You are
very moment in
recalling
time
this,
at 3 p.m.
putting it back in your mind.
Yes.
Okay. Last year, around this time, you haven't thought about this in a while. You haven't thought about this in a while at all. You see, you are very good at what you do. And you always succeed at your missions, for the most part. I mean, sometimes missions are messy, and you know how these things can be. But you are very good at what you do. There was a mission a year ago. Complicated mission. It was a request, a favor. You were sent to save someone. An American. This American was an asset of the CIA, you think. You think. Based out of, well, you didn't get all the details, but you think based out of DC. You didn't exactly know who it was, what their name was. No, you didn't know their name. Maybe it was DC? Anyway. But, they were some sort of FBI, CIA, DIA, some sort of US government asset who was, as far as you know, were kidnapped by terrorists. Some sort of terrorist kidnapped this person. And the US government asked MI6 to help recover this person. And you had done work trying to track down where this person was, who had them to save them. And your journey brought you to the French Riviera. You were in Monaco, ear to the ground, trying to find out whatever you could find. And as you were searching, and you knew there wasn't a lot of time, terrorists kidnapping some sort of U.S. asset, probably to kill this person, most likely. A lot of people trying to find this asset, and you were the only one that got a good lead. And you remember that you heard tell, rumor, the docks. There was a yacht. A yacht. You'd heard that this asset was being brought to or held on this yacht or transferred to this yacht. But if you could get to this yacht, you could save this asset. You remember this. But you couldn't get backup. You didn't have enough time. And you remember heading down towards the wharf area. It was a night. It was dark. The docks were somewhat empty. And you had to get into this sort of wealthy yacht berth where all these yachts of rich people were, which you thought was sort of interesting that terrorists, I mean, I don't know, terrorists, I suppose they can just, maybe they stole that too. And as you made it there, you saw this ship at the end of the slip. You still had quite some ways to go to get there. There were lights on in this ship. It was dark, though. You couldn't really make out much about it. But you saw a group of people. And you saw that there were goons. Strong sorts of types. And two of them were grabbing a hold of what looked to be a man, except that he had a burlap bag over his head. He was clearly in distress. He was bound. This must be the asset. And they were trying to drag him onto this yacht. And you were rushing there. Let me ask you, what happened next? You're quite far from the boat. You can see it, but you're not close enough yet. What happened?
I see the asset, and it's just the two goons and the
No.
burlap person.
No, there are a couple more people up there. It's like a little gaggle, maybe 4 or 5 people, trying to hustle into this boat, this very expensive yacht. But 2 are manhandling this person.
I see the asset, and I see the goons, and I see the collection of people, and it's a lot of people, but I think I might be able to, I might be able to figure something out. He's still alive, that's all that's important, but who knows how much longer. So I scoped the spot before I was going to approach, so I knew where to slink through to get access to the ship without being really seen. However, as I start moving, I observe this. The moment I'm moving from one cover to another, there's a moment that someone from that group that's rushing in turns around and looks at me directly.
Why are you so psychic? Because that's true. It's a man, a blonde man, turns and he looks at you. Can you describe this blonde man? You've seen him before.
This blonde man, it's hard to see him from this distance, but I don't have to be able to see him. I'd recognize this person, a person who's been haunting me for years at this point, someone who I noticed existed, and then I thought, what are the chances? There's a lot of blondes out in the world, a lot of men who are blondes, but this particular individual, skin pale, blonde hair, always up with a top knot and the rest coming down, Always dressed well, which was odd in some jobs, which is why it caught my attention. Even when he was dressed down, he was dressed up. You know, those white t-shirts that cost thousands of dollars. It's what he would wear when he was trying to not look as expensive, but someone who knows. And this individual, it's hard to see what he's wearing, but I'm assuming it's the same damn trench coat that I've seen time and time again. And he looks at me, face empty, nothing, no glasses, no bandana, nothing, just barefaced, proudly standing there.
Can I ask you a couple questions? I have a question.
Absolutely.
These were terrorists that took this asset. So, but this guy is a British dude. You were told that they were like Middle Eastern terrorists? What is this guy doing there?
Why has he been anywhere? I'm the first person to know that if you say you're from one place, doesn't mean that's where you're from. If you sound like you're from one place, doesn't mean that's where you're from. This person could be from anywhere, anytime.
That's true. Now, how old is this guy?
Never looked old, mid to late 30s, maybe.
You've seen him multiple times over the decades.
I have.
How much has he aged?
Since the first time I saw him, barely a year, if I had to guess. Which is odd for his line of work, or what I assume it to be.
Yes. You've seen him next to government officials, haven't you?
As recently. Which is why MI6 became concerned when I brought it to their attention.
You said he looked at you.
Yes.
That's true. And as he looks at you, a year ago today, his eyes seem red in the darkness. The yacht has a helipad. It's expensive. He's staring at you. And I need you to make a cool test.
Oh.
Yes, you've used many skills today already, but it's our first general skill roll. And your advanced number is a 9.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see what we roll first.
Before you start. Oh,
too late?
You already started. It's too late. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Because after all, you've only rolled 1 die. You've rolled 1 die, and it's a 5. Your advanced number is a 9. Well, please note, you have a -1 penalty to all of your cool tests because you're still kind of freaked out about that message from Coleman. So you're at a 4.
True.
You have 1 more die. Before you roll it, I'm going to throw out some options for you.
Okay.
You can just roll the die, see where you're at, and then if you want to, you can start using other assets. Or you can start spending assets now in the hopes of maybe having a die left over and getting a push. What would you like to do?
I need a 9. I rolled basically a 4.
There are stunts that you can use.
This is the least in danger I'm going to be
That is
this
correct.
entire run.
That is correct. Maybe.
Yeah, probably. If I'm heading to Moscow, I'm already in trouble. I will... I have 2 choices, right?
Mm-hmm. So right now you've got another die that you can spend and all is good. You can
Yeah.
also, but there are stunts available for you. For example, you could stunt cover for being in disguise. You could stunt evasion, right? Or even sense trouble or fighting, whatever. If you wanted to, you could. There are things you could stunt to give yourself an extra die, and you can either do that now or you can wait until after you roll that next die. It's up to you.
I mean, either way, I think I'm gonna have to roll a 3rd die. So
No.
I should just... I mean, I know me and Roll20's relationship.
I see.
So
I see.
I'm fairly aware of what this one I'm about to roll is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if I know I'm going to roll another dice, I might as well take a stunt on it
Sure. What would you like to stunt?
and hope for the best. I would like...
By the way,
to
cool
stun.
is to not flip your, is to keep control of yourself mentally. It's your will.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So tell me what you want to stunt to help you with this problem of being stared at by this person.
in my mind at this very second, in my memory.
In your memory.
I have been trained to stay calm, cool, collected, because it is dangerous, even if you are made, to let other people know that is a thing. And just because this person has turned and looked at me doesn't mean that I have to acknowledge that I know that they're looking at me directly. They're far away.
Yes. Yes.
And they may just be looking in my direction. So I want to know if I could use conceal in an attempt to try and conceal my reaction to conceal that I know that they're looking at me. Because at this point, their eyes are red, whatever. It could be like some weird military technology. I don't know.
It could be.
I'm still trying to do my job, but because they're looking at me in my memory, my first instinct is don't let them know that they saw you. Because I think that's where I would be, working off of instinct instead of like being mentally available enough to know, hey, maybe I should do something smart here. Instead, I'm going to go straight to my training.
That feels
So
more
do you
like
think
cover
that's
to me
conceal?
than conceal. I feel that's more cover.
Okay.
Yeah, because like cover
Okay.
like being your persona.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I just click on the thing to
just check mark
remark that I've done it.
Yeah, which means that you have 0 dice in cover left, and you get an extra die for this cool test. So.
Okay. So here's
Roll
another
your
d6. We rolled a
second
5 minus 1.
Oh, that's a 6. So you rolled a 10, and you have 1 die left over, which means you get an extra push.
Let's
because
go.
You
hey,
advanced
you got to psych
with a
the
die
dice
left
out
over.
sometime.
Sometimes you do. You have to just psych the dice out. Absolutely. That's really good. You got to push, but that's not all.
Oh.
Because you advanced. When this person looked at you, you found that you could no longer move your body. You couldn't move forward anymore. By the way, you're going to be getting an edge for this because you advanced.
Okay.
If you just hold, no edge. If you advance, you can get an edge. The thing is, this person is looking at you and you cannot move your body. And that's weird. But also, it starts feeling like this person is staring into your soul. As if their eyes have some sort of power. As if they're burrowing into your mind. As if they will take over who you are and control you like a puppet. But if you might turn over your edge. I'm pretty sure that's the right one.
See. Let's hope it is. We have Edge,
Yes,
defiant to the last. While the blonde man stopped you from chasing the boat, just by staring into your eyes, you stared back, and in his eyes you saw some truth, even if no one else believes you. Draw on that memory of your courage and discard this card to counter any shadow problem. Oh, that's going to be spicy.
Mm-hmm. So, his mind through his eyes reached out, and you could feel something tapping at your will. You know that this person is someone you have seen. People said that you never saw this person. There was never any evidence. There was never any photographs. But here he is, and you know he's real. Tell me how you were able to shake off any influence.
Early on in my career, I wasn't fresh, but I was still a little green. I had a handler. You might know him. Goes by Agent Coleman.
Yeah.
He, there is a situation he managed to help me out of. It was... tempers were high in the situation I was in. We were down in the docks, and there was tensions, deals gone. Not well. Not awry, but not well. Enough that no shooting had started, but
yeah,
blame was being thrown. And some of that aggression started coming my way. I wasn't anyone important. I wasn't anyone that was moving material for anyone. I was just essentially a goon for that job. But I moved things, and aggression started coming my way, and I acted a little out of my role. But luckily, due to the situation, no one really took note of me, of my abilities, my thoughts, not acting very goonish in that moment. So when I was able to night over, situation resolved, Coleman, for our check-in, heard the tale, saw that he had seen the tale. We had bugs all over that warehouse, but he told me a tale about a time that he's not new to this. He's been a handler. He's worked with other undercover agents. And he told me a tale of a time that somebody got caught and reacted like I did. But it was a much more serious situation. And they were immediately made and immediately taken care of. And Harry told me that in any moment, I have to be strong. Even if I know I'm made, even though I may be in danger at that moment, I'm not in danger until the gun is pulled. And I need to keep my cool until that point. Be prepared, but don't be stupid. Yeah, is what he told me. And that is what I heard in my head. I staked out this place before I approached. I knew this dock, I knew this area, I knew where I was going, cover to cover, to get to any boat location here, even with my little time. I'm prepared for the situation. I wasn't going into this reckless or stupid. So in my head, I heard, be prepared, but don't be stupid. Be prepared, but don't be stupid. I'm prepared, and I'm not stupid. This guy has made me. I'm paralyzed in fear. I don't know, but I need to go with my training here in this situation. It's what's gotten me through every portion of my life thus far. And with that, Harry's voice in my head, that breaks this hold, this fear, whatever this may be. and I continue on to the next piece of cover.
In your memory, you somehow stop this. You break eye contact. You move forward, but it's too late. You get to the end of the slip, and they're already aboard the yacht, moving away. You catch a few glimpses of data as you watch the yacht leave. One, you see the name of the yacht, the Catherine. Two, you see the figure being taken down below the hold helipad, huge, expensive yacht. And you catch something in the glass, the porthole. You see a little scene of something as it's taking off. The blonde man on the top of the yacht just watching with a smirk. But down in the hold, you see, you don't get a good vision, but you see this figure being dropped into a chair. And the goons pull the burlap sack off of his head. And it is your psychiatrist. Not Miss Edith, but the one you've been seeing for the last year. And there's a woman, elegant, power suit, and she leans in towards the psychiatrist. And that's all you can remember. Just that. Just that. And the look of terror on the man's face as the woman leans in towards him to laugh. And you catch his eye, the eye of that man, that prisoner, the asset, the one taken by terrorists, I guess. But you failed that mission. That's what happened a year ago.
As I come out of that moment, that memory, that almost trance-like moment, I look back at the clock on my computer that now has gone into like screensaver mode, sleep mode, so I like have to shake the mouse, but then I look at the time. What time is it?
It's 2 hours later.
5 p.m. sun. Actually, sun's still up. I didn't know that the sun went down so late over in England. I had no idea. Just learned that recently. If you guys didn't know, it does. And I slammed the desk in frustration, grabbed my head, and just I don't know what's happening. All I know, and I have the only way I've stayed sane this last year as these situations, these lapses of memory have just increased over time, is I remember, again, training, core things, the important things. My name is.
Yeah.
My parents were. I am so, and my name is Alyssa Lynn Hall. My parents were Paul. Oh fuck! Hold on. My parents were Paul William Hall and Susan Catherine Hall. I am an MI6 agent. I'm 36 years old. I am. I have worked in MI6 for over 20 years. Harry Coleman was my first handler. Edith is my therapist. She has brown hair. My friend's name is Allison. She is a vet. And I just go through all the things, and I have seen that man with the blonde hair and red eyes. Is the last of my mantra.
As you finish your mantra, something occurs to you. Your therapist couldn't do those things.
The American one?
Yes, the American one. You kept asking him his name, where he went to school. You were asking him, prompting him to recite his own mantra, and he couldn't. It wasn't that he was being evasive because he wanted to hide things from you. As you do your mantra to remember the things that people keep telling you that are not real, or that you might forget, you realize that he is avoiding those answers because he doesn't have them. He hasn't done the mantra like you have. And he's lost those names.
As a scramble, I stand up and I do two things.
Mm.
I go to the loose floorboard in my flat, and I grab the key that's taped on under the loose floorboard. I grab that key and I take off a frame that's on the wall. And I put the key in, open it, grab another key. And from that key, I go to the TV and I unjam the top of it to just to be able to snake my hand through it. And from it, it's a small little envelope. It's not very large. And inside of it, I have a note card. Alyssa Lynn Hall. Paul Williams. Susan Catherine Hall. I am born this day. I am 35 years old. I am, and all the things I just said, all the little things, but in certainty are written down there. And as I look at it, and I just breathe a sigh of relief. It's still written there. It's still correct. And I think about that man working with MI6. And I go over to under my sink, and I grab a handle of the only thing that's down there, a handle of vodka. And I sit down. If anyone else were to come into this place, there's not much here. I don't have food in the fridge. I don't have any cutlery. I'm lucky I have a trash can, a bin, sorry. I have a couch, a TV, a cheap dining room set, and a couple of decorations here and there, pretty generic for the most part. And I sit down, not on the couch, but like right under it, so I'm leaning against it with the handle and this piece of paper. And I take out a lighter and I light it on fire. I think this is the last time I'm going to be inside this flat for a while. And with that,
the name of the yacht, the face of the man, you didn't remember them until this moment. There are a lot of details about that memory that seem to have been lost from your mind until this moment when you really concentrated on bringing them back. It's as if someone had made those things blurry, but your concentration made them clear again. You can see the name on the yacht. You can see that man's face. You can see the face of that woman, the blonde man.
The woman who leaned in?
The woman who leaned in. You remember the incident. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it was gone, but the details, right? It was like, before it was like, it was just too dark. You're like, oh, no, wait, no, actually, I did see that. And I did see. And if you think about it, you thought they had been Middle Eastern terrorists. But now that you've really concentrated on that memory, you know that they weren't. They did not seem like Middle Eastern terrorists at all. They seemed like a bunch of not Middle Eastern terrorists. Almost as if you pulled off like an overlay that had sort of just filtered that memory a little bit.
With that revelation and the job ahead, Alyssa is quite pragmatic. Always do the job. Do the thing. Do what you know, not what you don't. Work with that. And so she is going to grab her duffel from one of the nightstands in her bedroom.
Her go bag.
Yeah, her go bag. And it just has clothing in it for now. She'll find where she has the important stuff before she leaves. And she'll look at the stuff that Lithlave gave her, the passport, the everything like that. The tickets. She debates whether or not she really trusts this and if it's not really a setup. But thinking back, looking at his eyes, looking at his motivations, it would be stupid for him to be the liaison to my death. If that's even the motivation here. And so I trust the passport and the tickets I've been given. I grab the duffel and I make my way down my flat. It's a little like a, I guess it's a duplex essentially.
Yeah.
So like I live one side, my neighbor's on the other side.
Yeah.
My neighbors, I'll go over to my neighbors and I'll say,
how are you?
Oh, hello, Mrs. Tinsley. Every name has just left my mind. I used too many trying to deceive that other guy.
That's the blonde guy. I'm just saying that's what happens.
That blind guy. Of course. To me also, IRL. Mrs. Tinsley, it's hello, such a
dear.
Hello, it's so nice to see you. I'm afraid that I got a piece of your mail sent to me. It looked rather important.
Ooh, well, I sent away, you know, for the lottery, and I'm hoping I might win.
Oh, this might be it. I mean, it looks like there's something inside of it. Here you go.
Oh, thank you, dear. Is everything okay with your plants? Do you need plants watered? Are you going on your trip again?
It's like my plants should be fine. I don't plan to be gone for long, but I am a little curious about you. If you sent out for the lottery, I would like to know before I leave.
Oh, a very nice young man said that nowadays we just give them money and then they will send away to the lottery, and at any moment we could win. I've already given him £25.
Oh, interesting. Well, let's see if your investment has made any turnaround.
Oh, I hope so. You know, being a pensioner, it's not like I'm made out of money, but I think a good £25 to perhaps win the lottery. They say, this young man said it's a much better way to do it than just going into the shops.
Of course, of course. Well, I'm waiting with bated breath, Miss Tinsley. Let's see. Did you win or not?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. She's gonna open up the letter, and it's like it's like the annual television fee bill, just a bill. Oh, well, I'm sure I'll win some of these days.
Well, the mail just came in recently. I slipped mail in there. This is my piece of mail. It's like, well, the mail just came. It's where I got this letter. Should I go get it for you?
Please do, thank you. Also, you have to make sure when you go traveling, you're a travel agent, is that right? Or some sort of blogger of traveling? I don't know what a blogger of traveling is. I hear the young people. My grandson tells me all the time that there are influencers, and they travel all the time. I imagine you must be an influencer.
Not someone quite that important, but I do travel, and I give advice to others to travel to certain locations.
She pats your head. You are that important, dear. Don't ever.
That is very kind of you.
Don't ever speak down about yourself. You should be proud. I will say you never cause trouble. I've never heard you have loud parties or anything like that. You seem like a quite respectful sort of young person.
Flashback to the completely empty flat.
Yeah.
It's like my gallon of cheap vodka is still on the coffee table. Absolutely, that's so kind of you, Mrs. Tinsley. Thank you so much. Let me grab the mail for you, and I like reach over and grab it.
You know, I must say, you visit me far more often than my son does. You're such a good person.
Oh, thank you so much, Mrs. Tinsley. Things are busy out there, and it's easier because I live right next to you. I'm sure your grandson will come. Where is he from again?
Oh, well, my son, now he's moved all the way to America. He says that there's more opportunity there. Yes.
It would make it difficult to travel. Well, maybe there's something in the mail. I may have not gotten the lottery, but maybe in your mail you did.
Maybe. Thank you so much, dear. She, takes the letters you hand her. Thank you. If you ever want, I'll be very happy to make you an evening tea, if you like. Anytime you want to come visit.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Tinsley. Inside one of those letters that she's going to...
Wait. Right, and she goes off, she comes back, and she hands you, a small tin of biscuits. Here you go. You should go and have some biscuits. They always make people happy.
Thank you, Mrs. Tinsley, very much. I really appreciate it. And we'll make sure to read those letters before too long. Don't want to leave any money on the table.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, by the way, your fiancé came by last week and was looking for you, and I said that I hadn't seen you for a bit. He seems like a very nice young man.
Well, I'm sure he is. Did you like his hair? He just recently made a change with it.
Oh, well, I thought it's a bit odd. It's this sort of strange ponytail thing. I thought that was odd. Do people do that? Is that the new fashion for the young people?
It's what he wanted. It says it's popular over in Germany.
Oh, yes. Well, he seemed very nice. He just asked and he said if I'd seen you. And I said, who are you? And he said, oh, well, I'm the fiancé. And I was like, oh, that's very nice. Yes, he seemed very nice indeed. A bit pale. You should go. Take him to the seaside. See this shore. Take him to the shore.
I will make sure to do so, Miss Tinsley. I'll leave you to read your mail.
He did ask when was the last time you were here, which I thought was an odd question, being that he is your fiancé. You must be staying with him? That's a bit scandalous, don't you think? I said that I hadn't seen you in the apartment for quite some time. I hope that's all right.
Of course, Mrs. Tinsley. Thank you so much for letting my fiance know about my whereabouts. So right now we're a little bit like ships passing in the night. So
that's like during the war. Many people, ships passing in the night during the war. You should come by, dear, and I will tell you all about my time. I was quite young, though. I was about 16 during the war, and I remember when the bombing happened and everything. Oh, if you ever want to come and sit down and hear me tell you stories about the time, I would be so pleased.
Of course, Mrs. Tinsley. I'll make a note about it in my calendar.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well,
tell your fiancé that he should snap you up quickly, because someone like you is going to go very quick. If he doesn't marry you soon, well, you might just leave him. That's what I told him. I told him that he had to better... Ooh, what is the song? If he likes it, he should put a ring on it.
well, let's hope so, Mrs. Tinsley. I'd much like to see him again. All right. Well, I will leave you to it.
Bless you, dear.
It's like, have a blessed day, Mrs. Tinsley. And
she shuts the door, and you can hear like so many locks on the door, right? She's got like 3.
Good for her. In the letter is our tickets to America, coincidentally where her son is. And in about 30 minutes, there's a taxi that is going to pull up to the house to take her to the airport. All as a gift from her son.
Oh, that's so sweet. You know, her son has not contacted her in quite some time. He's always so busy. Oh, she's so excited to go there. She's going to see her grandson, who knows all about the single ladies and all of this, you know. Well, turns out she's not going to get murdered recently. Interesting. She's not going to be here when people come back later. Huh, weird. Seems like you're
Tinsley,
paranoid.
very nice.
She is very nice.
You know, always have to have contingency plans. And well, so
it does seem as if your fiance was by.
Yeah, my fiance. I take a walk.
Unclear.
Beyonce.
Sorry.
No, the singing ladies. Oh, the singing ladies. I make my way down, and I disappear into the crowd.
Yeah.
As I am walking down a fairly popular, work has just ended. A lot of people around. A lot of people just wanting to get home. And I make my way to a spot where I, on the side of a building, in a really alleyway not really visited very often, and behind a loose brick, there is a baggie of passports, licenses, badges, and certain smaller trinkets for changing appearances and stuff. So I grab that and I make sure to put that in my bag.
I love it.
And as I leave out of there, I take a very obtuse route to go see an emergency vet. Such an obtuse route. I find a woman who is speaking on her phone with both headphones in. That is stopped to like take a stretch. Who's been walking her dog, and I just leisurely grab the leash and I walk the other way through a yard.
Hey!
And make my way to the other side before they really notice.
Seal dog. I'm into it.
I abandon the leash and the collar snagged onto a fence. Good thing they got a breakaway collar, or it broke away.
Knives help.
And I grab a little bit of the mud on the ground and just pet him all over. Absolutely elated, this little yappy dog, and dirty him up a little bit, and I make my way to my friend the vet's emergency clinic.
Vera was her name, yes? I wrote it down.
Yes.
I thought
If
so.
it wasn't before, it is now.
Well, hold on. I have it written down. I can just check. I want to make sure I get it right. Jade. Jade Wells.
Jade. Oh, right, because yep.
I wrote it down. So Jade is sitting there, and there are, it's always a kind of an emergency vet is a sort of a busy place, right? And there are always people waiting, worried about their animal, their fur friend. And there's like, the receptionist, people are in and out. It doesn't look like it's the most busy today, but it's the waiting, right? There are people who are just waiting. And when you step in, the receptionist, sort of like a young man, Indian, says, "Oh, hello. Oh," and he sees the yappy dog you've got, Muddy. He goes, appointment?
No, actually, I just found this dog. I was walking back from work, and I saw this dog just ran up to me, started barking, and I don't know, maybe he recognized the vet. He was somewhere nearby. Maybe he smelled it. He looks a little bit lost. It looks a little bit too kind to be feral.
Yes, there might be a chip or something. We can go and get the doctor to go and see if there's some sort of a chip or anything like that.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I go with him? He was a little stressed before he found me.
Well, certainly. One moment. Give me 1 moment.
Absolutely.
Picks up the phone. Dr. Wells, we've got I think a sort of a lost puppy. Might need to check to see if it's a chip or some such, or if it's malnourished. Yes. Of course. Right. Yes. If you'll wait 5 minutes, then you can go in. Is that all right?
Of course. Yeah, it works out very fine. Thank you. I need to sit down anyways. It's been a long day at work.
Of course. And, it's like the office is sort of mellow. You can hear some music. There's the telly on. There's like, football's happening. And it's about like only 5 minutes or so before the phone rings. You may go right in. If you go right down that way, it'll be the first door on your left.
Oh, thank you very much. And I make like a as I stand up, and like a little bit of as I get down to like stand up, get the dog.
There's an old man next to you who's like, "Oh, I know what that's like," he says as he's just sitting there, little cap on.
And I take like a deep breath before I stop walking. He's like, thank you very much. And as I get to the back, and like I'm like huddled over to the dog and stuff as I walk over, kind of slowly because I'm in pain apparently. And I get to the back to where it's just me and the vet.
And when you walk and you open the door to walk in, you walk into your therapist's office. Oh,
is the dog still in my hands?
Yes. You're back.
The dog's still in my hands?
Mm-hmm.
In the therapist's office. Hello, Dr. Williams.
No? How can I help you? I think you need something, is that right?
I look at the time.
It's 9:30.
Yes, I thought I might have left something here. Have you seen it's my wallet is what I seem to have dropped.
He thinks about it. Oh, your wallet.
Well, I mean, like the thing where you hold your cards now, like the
Yeah.
the little thing. They're not really wallets; they're little card things.
And he gets up and he goes over to his desk and he opens it up and he looks around. He says, "No, that's Prometheus." And he picks up another card. No, that's Archangel. Picks up. Oh no, not that one. Yes, and he hands you a photograph. Is that what you were looking for?
What is the photograph?
The photograph is a photograph of him and his husband and his 7-year-old daughter, and they're smiling. And you see it, and then as you look, his face starts getting bruised in the photograph, and he just starts fading out of the photograph. Was that it?
Not exactly, but thank you so much for trying. I'm glad I guess I'm glad I didn't leave it here. One less place to look.
Yes. You were thinking about me recently, I think.
About you, Doctor.
Yes,
We
I
did
think
just
so.
have an appointment.
Oh, that must have been it. And he looks at his desk, and there's like a notepad, and there's nothing written on it. Except that it's... Imagine a page where you would write across the page, and imagine as if he was writing when you came in, but the writing only starts the moment you walked in the door, right? But it's as if he had been writing beforehand, but nothing actually got on the page until you open the door. It's that kind of strange, like, just like the writing ends up at the very end, like almost half
Yeah.
sentence. Well, are you sure you don't need anything?
No. But stay safe, Doctor. It's weather's going to be bumpy in the next couple of days.
There was something I think I was supposed to remember to do.
Well, have you remembered to have a meal today, Doctor? You work too hard.
Yes, no, I was supposed to tell you something, I think.
Well, Doctor, if it's about my fiancé, you might know him. Pale, blonde hair.
He goes to his notes.
Tell him.
Pale blonde hair. You never told me about a fiance. I don't remember that. No. You did tell me something about a pale blonde-haired man. I feel like someone else was telling me about him as well. A different patient.
Interesting. Well, if you see him, Doctor, tell him to not worry.
No.
We'll meet up soon.
Nobody comes to visit me. Really. I can't remember my phone number. I want to call my husband to let him know that I'll be late, but I can't seem to remember my phone number.
I'll have someone look it up for you.
I keep trying to
someone
call.
figure it out.
Wait, would you wait here just a moment?
Sure, Doctor. I'll wait here in the doorway.
Yes, just don't leave just yet. Do you mind?
No, not at all, Doctor.
And he goes to pick up the phone. He says, my phone number. It was, one. And he starts to poke on the phone number. You hear behind you, Alyssa? From behind you. You're in the doorway. It's your vet friend is behind you you're facing in towards the therapist who is trying to make this phone call, but your vet friend is behind you. What do you do?
I turn around and I look at my friend who called my name.
Um, your friend
The door
smiles.
closed behind me.
Yeah. The door closes behind you, and your friend smiles to see you walking in with this puppy. And the therapist does not finish the call.
Hi,
Ooh.
sorry, it's been a long day. I found this dog.
Hello. Oh, hello. How are you? And she comes up there and she like scruffles. Little puppy. Ooh. Looks well cared of, but must have gotten in some kind of a bit of a. Huh.
It's not my first time. I do this fairly often. I find a lot of lost dogs.
Yes. Well, this one seems to have been running through something or other, so you are the lost dog whisperer. How are you?
I am. I've been better. That's for sure.
Your therapist seemed a little desperate to get the call in and seemed sad and a little confused as you shut the door.
Yeah.
Like you were pulled back here.
Yeah, I just found a lost dog and I thought I'd bring it to you. The best vet in town.
Let's see if there's a chip. Have a seat. So tell me, and she takes the dog out of your hands and she sort of goes over. She's like, gonna go try to see if she can get a chip reader. Tell me, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a bit.
Well, travel is, so it's coming my way. I'm only here for a bit before I have to go back out.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, it's some sort of sales or something, isn't it?
Yes, basically. It's a long, complicated title that basically just means I sell things.
Well, I don't know how you do it. I prefer animals to people, but, well, not all people. Certainly not all animals. I had a Komodo dragon come in that was not very cooperative.
I didn't even know
So,
those were legal here.
no, they weren't actually, so that was also a bit complicated. Tell me, how long will you be gone for? And can I convince you to come to dinner when you get back?
Absolutely. I'm going to be gone. It's a little unsure. It's supposed to be a quick job, but I just keep getting asked to do a little bit more and more every time.
You know, you should tell your bosses that you also are allowed to have a personal life.
I don't think they'd really understand it, but I can try to convince them.
You know, listen, making money is all well and good, but money's not everything. And I know you must be a very good saleswoman, but what's it all for if you don't have a life? Friends, family, and all of that? Listen, when you get back, why don't you come to dinner with me? We can go maybe see a show or something. Just look, I don't know if you know this, but some friends of mine and I, we like to play board games, dice and all of that sort of thing. And why don't you come along and I can introduce you to my board game group.
You know what? That sounds wonderful. When I'm back in town, I'll make sure to come and visit and let you know that I'm around.
Please do.
But what about you? You're always also working. Anytime I come in here, you're here.
Well, I just feel like I've been called out now, haven't I? Yes, I do work a little bit too much. That's how I can give that advice, because it's easier to give it than to follow it.
Well, I may be going out also to travel. And
it must be nice.
There are perks to my job. One of them being a vacation I can't go to, unfortunately, because I would be working.
Oh, no.
And I wouldn't hate for the tickets to go to waste.
So
It's
what are
off
you
in
gonna
the
do about it?
Caribbean.
Oh, it's amazing. I've always wanted to go.
I was thinking about giving it to someone who I think really deserves it. And I give her a little bit of a look. And I'm like, and this person might have found that it's already under their name, in their email, and it's for tonight, and maybe her employees already know that
What?
she's going to go on vacation for a couple
You...
of
Okay.
weeks.
This is ridiculous. You
Oh, it's the least
arranged
I could
everything
do.
already.
Well, I mean, most of it was already in range. It was just a little bit about changing names.
Are you telling me that Dev already knew about this and didn't say anything?
Apparently, Dev is very good at keeping secrets.
Well, how can I... Well, I couldn't possibly...
I don't...
I wouldn't want it to go to
There's
waste.
board games. Yeah, there's board games in my future. Consider that payment. I don't have many friends in the city. I'm always in and out.
All right, but then we'll have to make a deal.
Okay.
You will be obligated to play a slightly more complicated set of board games than just Monopoly or something like that.
Well, I'll try my best. I'm not very good at board games.
Well, there's one, it's very good. Codenames, it's a bit of a party game. Everyone pretends to be a spy. Find out, it's a word puzzle game. Also, I was thinking if you would be interested, we might be able to play Twilight Imperium. Sometimes it lasts 12 hours. It's a little bit of an intense game, but, you know, if you might be interested.
I mean, if it's the price I have to pay to make sure that you take care of yourself, take some time to take care of yourself, well, then it's a price I'm willing to pay.
I never find anyone who wants to play Twilight Imperium with me. They always say it just takes too long. So I'll go on this vacation. I will force myself to go to the Caribbean. If when we both get back, you will play Twilight Imperium with me.
It's a deal. I'll
All right.
promise.
I don't know what I'm going to do now. Well, we'll have to take care of this one. Oh, there is a chip. I think I can return this to her owner.
Well, you might want to give it to Devin outside to return to the owner. Someone has to go pack.
All right. Thank you so much. By the way, is that cell phone number you gave me still good?
Yes. For you, yes.
Well, I will message you, and I'll take photographs and send them to you.
I cannot wait.
Can't believe this. It's like I won the lottery. Thank you.
Almost like, of course.
Well, you say that now, but will you say that after you've played 12 hours of Twilight Imperium?
I'm sure it can't be that bad.
Well, I like it. Thank you. Oh.
Of course.
And she looks around, and she hands you a lollipop. She's like, well, sometimes kids come, so lollipop?
And I'll take the wrapper off and I'll start sucking on it. Thank you very much. And I have to leave for the night, but I hope you enjoy your vacation.
Thank you. I better go get packing. I've got 2 kittens and a very old dog to take care of before I go. But yes, thank you.
Absolutely. And as I walk out, I wink at Devin.
And he smiles. Like...
And outside is a taxi already full, packed by her roommate. Who already has everything dealt with.
Yep.
And I continue on. I start taking some side streets until I call an Uber to take me to the airport. Sounds like I gotta go to Moscow.
Yes. And so, you get on the plane, you travel to Moscow. You should know something. Changing cities counts as taking time.
Okay.
You have no problems. You have no heat or shadow or injury, so nothing bad is going to happen there. However, because you took time, you may refresh your stunts and your dice.
Oh, okay. Some. Boop. Got it.
Let me ask you to roll some dice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Perhaps. You may or may not roll dice. It's really up to you. I need to ask you a couple of questions as you fly into Moscow, into the airport. And as you get there, everyone is going through airport security. You know how it is. And there are spot checks. Just random people are chosen to be pulled out of the line just to have their credentials checked. Just, randomly.
Of course.
Randomly. As you were walking through the airport, you get a feeling. The sensation that somebody's watching you close by. And you remember the memory of trying to get to the ship, the yacht, the Catherine. Just in your mind. The eyes are in your mind. The eyes. This weird feeling of being watched by someone very close by. I'm going to ask you a question. Would you like to push notice?
Notice to see what it is? Is that
it's a notice, but this is not for a clue about your case, so you would need a push to get some info about this feeling.
Yeah, I'll push for it.
Well, then spend one of your pushes. If you got them, if you got them, spend them. Let me hand you this. You have an edge.
Ooh. Do you want me to flip this after I roll? I know I pushed. Before. I don't need to. Right? Before?
Well,
okay.
That's a different thing. This is a before. This is before you get there.
Okay. Oh, edge. The Watcher. You had a vision, a memory, an intuition of someone watching you, a pale and hungry figure. While you hold this card, you cannot suppress your shadow score. Discard to automatically advance in a sense trouble test or counter by dismissing the experience as a hallucination. Amazing.
It's just those eyes. You remember it. And there's something else. As you are walking through the airport, you get the sense that while there might be that figure that you remember, that pale and hungry figure, you have a different sense. The sense of the Watcher. And you know what? You smell tobacco smoke, pipe smoke. It's cherry. It's it's your therapist. You just get a whiff of his pipe smoke, and you have a sense, somehow, that maybe he's watching out for you. But my question for you is, do you think that's just a hallucination and your therapist is not watching out for you, or do you think your therapist is?
It's my therapist watching out for me. I feel bad. Get you in a brain of Alyssa. Alyssa feels bad. Because even if she is superimposing her therapist face on this figure, she is reminded of this failure, right? This American came into her life at the same time she was trying to save an American. And clearly her therapist is struggling with something. She's struggling with something. And at this point, she's not going to think ill of her therapist. She's not going to think she's going to give it credibility. I don't know how much she believes it, but there is credibility because things don't make sense.
Mm.
And if nothing makes sense, she's going to try and ride the wave until it does.
Then you may keep this edge as you just,
Okay.
maybe someone's looking out for you. And you think that just this lingering smell of your therapist's tobacco smoke as you do the obligatory go through security. Now I must ask you a question.
Okay.
They're going to look at your paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
This is a roll. It is a cover roll, advance of 9. Or you can just use Linklaith's papers and not have to roll at all.
Yeah. I'm going to use Linklaith's paper.
It's up to you. You can either roll for it and see if you can get through with your own paperwork, your own fake paperwork, or you can use Linklaith's.
No, I made the decision earlier that I was going to trust his stuff and deal with the consequences if it's not real. And he's setting me up.
He doesn't have to be setting you up necessarily. You know what I mean? So you flash the paperwork.
I'm getting set up.
Well, some of it has to do with how competent he is. But you are
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Sometimes it's not
I'm gambling here.
Sometimes it's not malice. You know, sometimes it just might be a lot of confidence, but not competence.
Mm-hmm.
There's a grim-looking customs agent. Your paperwork, please.
And I hand it over to him.
Thank you. He looks it over.
I'm in Moscow at this point, right?
You're in Moscow, in the Moscow airport. Okay. All right. Welcome to Russia. Enjoy your stay. He stamps your paperwork. And he lets you through. I, if you don't mind, need to give you a present.
Okay.
You
also, does
make
my paperwork say I'm English?
It can say whatever you want it to say. I'm going to ask you what your cover is, but I won't have you answer it until next week.
Okay.
I'll
flip this card then.
Please do.
Problem marked. Your movements are being tracked. You can throw them off by taking time. Discard this card if you do so. Oh, okay.
So, I'm going to tell you about this before you go because you know this. The paperwork you got is not bad. But you are a Westerner coming through this airport. The FSB, the former KGB, is everywhere. And they are always looking at someone. You make it through security, and you are not flagged. The paperwork is competent enough. But you're never safe in this game in Moscow. At any time, you know that you are not randomly selected for that.
Yeah.
But they don't know who you are yet. But just like anyone of interest, assume that there are FSB agents keeping tabs on you for now. Doesn't mean they know who you are or what you're about, but you're now in the game of shadows. You're here in Moscow again. You've been here before, and you must always assume that someone is watching. But Moscow is open to you. And this is the end of our session. When we return next week, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm giving it to you now so that you can ponder. As you see the large, brutalist blocks of apartment blocks and complexes, the mix of the abject poor, and the kleptocrat oligarchs with huge amounts of money. Welcome to hyper-capitalist Russia. But yet still, the great game is afoot. The question I will ask you is, what is your cover while you are here? And where will you be staying? Now, I will note, because you know this, different approaches give different positives and negatives. You could always be a tourist. Being a tourist is the easiest cover, and it's also the easiest way to get the FSB to stop paying attention to you, because who cares about tourists? But it's harder to investigate various places if you're a tourist, because it's harder to justify going where you are. If you go to various places, it'll draw suspicion. You could go as a wealthy investor. That would give you an excuse to go to that company, at least. If you're a wealthy investor, going to Cathedral Dome Investments would make sense. But that makes you a bit more interesting for people, being a wealthy investor. Now, if you were, let's say, Interpol detective or a private investigator, that would give you a lot more flexibility, but you'll get a lot more attention from the authorities, especially if you're exposed. You have a lot of different approaches you can take. You can be anyone, because if I know something about Loki, I know that Loki is a woman of 1,000 faces, 1,000 names, and I don't know how many identities, maybe none. But that is your question to ponder for next week.
I could tell it to you now.
Oh, okay, I'm ready. I mean, I want to know.
Loki, starting off, is going to be a tourist. Oh my god, this is such a cool place. Everyone always says such bad things about Russia, but this is such a cool place. Gosh, I've never seen so much snow. And the architecture, oh my god. I have to, take my picture.
Right there at the airport, my friend. Right there at the airport. Tourism. This is going to be my gift. I appreciate it very much. But this is the end of our first session of The Deniable Woman, Seasons of Death Spring, our Night's Black Agent solo up extravaganza. You have a couple of leads here in Moscow. You have the Cathedral Dome investments to look into. And if he was being observed by the FSB, which mostly everybody who is important is observed by the FSB, you might have some contacts there who might know something about what happened to him, because if he went missing, maybe they saw, right? Because they always are looking. Yes, so you have a couple, you have leads you can follow up on as the smell of cherry pipe smoke, pipe tobacco wafts in the air. Why don't you tell me who you are and where we can find you, and what is your agent thinking? And also, I love you. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm PB from @PBPlaysInside. They're over there on twitch.tv/PBPlaysInside. You can find me playing a variety of games. Right now we're opening up a little bit. It's time to find some new games to play, and I'm very excited. I'm a big survival sandbox type of fan. I'm also a big RPG fan, visual novel fan. So, the world's my oyster at this point. I have a little bit of a backlog, and I'm excited to get through it. I also have recently been trying to play more solo TTRPGs on my channel.
Yes! What you gonna do next?
And I Well, let's give a little bit of insider information. I don't know when the game's gonna happen, because if you know anything about my solo TTRPG journey, is that I'm a little bit stubborn, and I'm using this opportunity to also just like grow my skills and learn just like cool things. Because I'm not really an artist, but I like to try. I like to pretend, and so
I like your art.
Thank you. My next idea for a game is a little guy's game, just so like a lot of little critters, a little anthropomorphic little guys in a sort of like a fantasy setting. However, I can't find a setting for it, so I might just be writing one myself. So I am going to be doing that, and also I would like to have like little animated backgrounds to move my guy around in. So there's going to be a little bit of learning how to do 8-bit pixel art and also how to make a move. So that is
So cool.
what's on the docket. I don't know exactly when that's going to be. I've been a little busy this summer, but I am hoping sometime in the fall I'll get it done.
I want to give you a present.
Oh.
I want to give you a present.
Yeah,
Would you like a present?
I would.
It's because you accepted that it wasn't a hallucination.
Oh, okay.
Are you sure?
I am sure. I love presents.
Okay. In that case, I could give you a present later, but I'm going to give you a present now. Show the playmat. Here you go. Because this way I could explain something. Go ahead.
Oh,
It's a present.
it's because I gave him the tourist.
It's because you did not deny the Watcher. Go ahead.
Contact Shadow, the doctor psychologist, treated the agent before they were burned. And after? Bullshit detector, diagnosis, forensic pathology, pharmacy, medic 2, sense trouble 2, and surveillance 1. Ooh.
So if you ever have questions that involve bullshit detector, diagnosis, forensic pathology, or pharmacy, you could talk to your psychologist friend and ask for, because you may not have those skills, but if the contact has those skills, you can ask them and get their insight. And if you need to make a sense trouble test, one, you can just discard the Watcher and automatically advance because the doctor can help you out. But after that, sometimes you can call the doctor forward and the doctor can help you with that. I will note something, though.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it says right above the doctor, below contact, it says Shadow.
Yes.
On your character sheet, please increase your Shadow score from 0 to 1.
I gotcha.
You now have 1 Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what Shadow is, though?
I mean, I know, but do the people?
The people may not know. Heat is how much attention you gain from the normal authorities. Shadow is how much attention you gain from the paranormal authorities. If you had, and Shadow could be like if you have a ghost hanging around, or if you're cursed, or if you have a very powerful magic item that like repels vampires. All those things are going to increase your Shadow because, people who are attuned to the supernatural are going to pick up on some vibes. So you have a doctor who can help you out. However, that doctor does come with some vibes. Vibes.
But I do feel a little bit bad. Oh, I didn't answer how Alyssa's feeling. Oh, Alyssa,
Yes.
bad. Vibes weird. She is definitely feeling some kind of way, and it's not good. She's already been struggling. We're coming into Alyssa's story where she's already not in a great spot. She's being gaslit by literally everyone she's ever known or loved. She's been working with MI6 since she was basically 16. They took her in after her parents died, and that's all she's known.
I'm sorry, not mysteriously. I'm so sorry.
Mysteriously,
Strike that.
no,
They did not die mysteriously.
They were hit by a car?
Just hit by a car.
It was a
Totally
horrific
normal.
accident.
Yep, horrific accident.
And so these are things. She was in a great spot before, really all of this. But then, you know, there was a mission out in Monaco and she was trying to save this American. And then everything kind of just like got weird quick.
Weird quick. Yeah.
And she's dealing with that like mentally. Which is why she has to, in safety of her own home, recite things that you usually do when you're being, you know, tortured. So she is not in a great spot right now, and she is feeling guilty now about this doctor psychologist, but she's kind of just trying to keep it on the back of her mind because she has a job to do. If all this is connected somehow between her and the doctor, at least, hopefully something can come of that. The fact that like Harry talked about something weird, but like, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to help my friend who's been there, had my back. Whether alive or dead, it's better to know than not know. So I'm going to go help him first and then deal with what the heck is happening. And if it just so happens it's all connected, well,
that would be weird, though. That'd be weird.
That would be, what a coincidence. What a little quinky dink that would be.
What a little quinky dink. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for agreeing to be a player in this madness with me. I am very excited about how healthy Alyssa is, sending away any kind of people who might be a source of comfort for her. Her vet friend, Mrs. Tensley across the hall, any people who, you know, might be the kind of folks who she could talk to feel better. Except for her therapist, who, you know, that's complicated. But you know, she's sending them away, which leaves her quite isolated. And I guess that means I'm not going to be able to kill them.
I mean, it would be a shame.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be like killing a puppy, though. So, like, I couldn't see you doing that.
No. But there might have been a fire at your duplex.
Look, man, it's so good that there's already paperwork in naturalizing Mrs. Tinsley. Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's a good thing she's going to be with her husband or her son.
Her son and her grandson. Yeah. Turns out, as it turns out, because your apartment was going to be in trouble. You'll find out. Yeah. No, your apartment got set on fire. Must have been some kind of electrical short. Weirdly, nobody was there at the time.
Oh, man, it's just really lucky.
Yeah.
Really lucky.
Yeah. Very lucky. Just can't kill your friends, can I? It's fine. That's all right. Not me. Just other people who might be interested in what you're up to. Can't find out anything. It's fine. So I hope you feel good. You saved some people's lives.
Look, I had to try. I knew one thing going into tonight. I knew one thing is that I was going to make sure that my vet friend got the hell out of Dodge. Alyssa has one friend, a singular friend, and that is the vet friend.
But after you play Twilight Imperium with your vet friend, will they still be your friend? That's the question.
Look, you know, who knows? Maybe she likes that kind of thing. I don't know Alyssa's life. Maybe she likes playing board games.
Yeah, very really long
likes
board games.
Jade. So, you know, sometimes good company makes things less long.
To tell you, Jade's a little bit of a nerd. I'm just telling you. That's all.
I mean, I'm sure Alyssa would be also if she ever had any free time to think about anything.
Yeah.
Everybody also really good at Monopoly.
Yeah. I feel like if you weren't being chased by vampires, sorry.
What?
Nothing. If
it's on computer, vampire into Google.
Don't do it.
Camera's right behind my back.
I'm
typing as slow as possible. There's a blue sheen suddenly over the screen.
It's bad. It's bad times. Yes, but but you do know about this. You have the memory of this top knot guy, your fiance, and also this woman that he met on this yacht named the Catherine. And, well, that's a thing that was a memory that was a little bit suppressed, but you have that. And somebody they kidnapped, some American. But you're in Moscow to find out what's going on with your old handler. And hopefully you can find him and he'll be safe. And it's just all misunderstanding and you'll just go back and it'll be super easy.
Yeah, it's just that easy. It's a
Yeah.
3-step plan.
Yeah, 3-step
I'm
plan.
not worried at all.
Yep. By the way, we got a tip and I want to acknowledge and give love to our tip. We got 100 bits from Clockwork Librarian, who, by the way, is super cool and always makes me happy to see Clockwork Librarian's name pop up in chat. But Clockwork Librarian did not leave a message, so I don't know what the message is. Let's say the message is something like, Agent Loki, whatever you do,
The rest is
don't make
smudged out.
friends. Yeah, it's the rest is smudged out. Whatever, like, I have wait. Okay, this is the perfect message. Are you ready? Agent Loki, I have something very important to tell you. Meet me, but I cannot tell you now. Meet me in the alley at midnight, and then I will share who the killer is. Then they never show up. They
But no
always show up
location.
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody says, in movies, like, oh, I'll tell you who did it, but I'll tell you later at midnight. I was like, just tell me now, because you're going to be dead by then. Come on. That's
It's
like, always how it goes.
You're gonna die anyways. Just tell me now. Save me some time. Save me some grief. I'll tell you later. Like, no, tell me now. Gosh,
tell me
why
now.
are we waiting? Let's be good communicators.
And I'm troopersjp. I have been the GM for this madness. So you can find me tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, where we have part 2 of Cthulhu Confidential X Astoria, another Gumshoe 1-to-1 game with Jackie Dash. And Jackie Dash has her reporter character, 1934 New York, has stumbled onto some corruption with construction and some labor unrest, and absolutely no weirdness whatsoever. There won't be anything strange happening at all, except you should just show up tomorrow, just in case. And then you can find me on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern over at Leffel of Lindy's channel for our Good Society game, Writing Between the Lines. Friday, on my channel at 7 p.m., will be me going solo as Crash Jones. Crash Jones, space adventurer, and the asteroid Dungeon of Peril. That's some good pulpy goodness. And then back here next Saturday at 5 p.m. for part 2 of The Deniable Woman, wherein our agent has arrived in Moscow and perhaps with a friend who's only sort of noticed by the smell of their pipe tobacco, and a mystery to solve, a mystery that I am certain is not gonna be creepy. It's going to be creepy. That's it, everybody. I would do a raid, but I have to make food, so I'm not gonna raid. No, I should raid. Doing a raid is how you are a good member of the community, so we are gonna raid. I'm gonna look to see who we can raid while you tell them something. Something cool.
I would like to thank chat for that hype train while we were getting some issues figured out. Before stream even started, you guys are great. A few subs in there, a couple of bits. Without your support, Trooper couldn't do all these cool things and have so many cool people on this channel. And Trooper is super freaking cool, and he runs really cool games. And I personally would love to see him run even more on the channel. So with your support, he gets to do that. So you have my eternal gratefulness for that, because I love dropping in and just watching Trooper stream. And I'm sure you guys do too.
But you have to tell me when you do your next solo game so I can come and watch and support.
I will.
That's our raid command. We're going to raid Persephoros, who's playing Dragon Age Origins, which I think is pretty cool. So that's what we're going to do, everybody. We're going to go over once we finish our credits, because I want to give love to all the folks. So thank you, everybody. And, just watch out for vampires. Just watch out for them. Maybe just kill them. If they can die. Nobody really knows. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Bye.
Bye.